on his total and complete destruction and deportation out of this country because he's evil. He turned on President Trump. He started this America Party, which essentially everybody that voted was in subcontinent of India. Why did he do that? He did that so he could flip enough House seats so that President Trump would get impeached. What's going to happen in 26 if you have an America Party that takes 5 or 6 House seats or costs a couple of $100 million? This guy's total program is to put a gun to President Trump's head. Well, guess what? A lot of people are afraid of him and back down. I'm not afraid of him. In fact, the bigger they come, the harder they fall. And I am totally and completely focused on his destruction. And he should understand what happened yesterday with NASA, where his buddy, his best friend, ran it and gave him all, we're going to give him all those soft contracts over to SpaceX to make it worth $600 billion. Sean Duffy was the one individual sat in that the cabinet room when Elon Musk sat there and told the president, hey, this guy's totally incompetent, doesn't know what he's doing. He said, dude, you got these Doge 19-year-olds with acne running around, letting half the air traffic controllers go. I'm not going to tolerate it. Elon Musk said, oh, no, that's not the truth. And Sean Duffy had the stones to sit there and say, you are a liar. And I'll prove your lie. And President Trump respected that. That's why he put Sean Duffy in charge of NASA. And let me tell Elon Musk something. Your days over at SpaceX are going to be a lot harder now that Sean Duffy's on NASA, including beginning a forensic audit of all the money you stole. You do understand the Doge thing. What he did, Doge, a complete lie. You know what Doge was there for? It was there to get the data and data sets of American citizens to drive artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is not prepared to share with anybody. He's not prepared to share the value of it. We're not going to let it happen. I can already tell you there are many things underway right now to make sure he's totally held accountable for every second he was in the federal government. But thank you for the question.
I knew you'd like that one.
Hang on. Do we have, if we don't have John Solomon, I got a bowl because we're in the 6th. Let's go to Mike Lindell for a moment. Mike, sell me, I need a set of sheets and a pillow right now.
Right on. Hey, hello, everybody. I wish I could have been there, but I'm working on something really big, and I'm going to actually tell you all about it on the War Room this week. The towel, the slippers, we're going to close out this line. Once they're gone, they're gone. This is an exclusive for the War Room posse. You save $110 a pair, $39.98, and then we have the sandals, the summer sandals at $19.98. Once they're gone, they're gone. It's a War Room exclusive, promo code War Room. Go to the website, go down, click on Steve. There's those slippers. There's the sheets for $49.98. The president's favorite. Those sheets are normally $100 and some. War Room president's favorite. Those sheets are normally $100 and some. War Room exclusive, $49.98. Many as you want. Call 800-873-1062. Maybe I'll see you all on Sunday. We'll see what happens.
They got can you run down, take some calls? These guys got their phones out. They're calling like crazy.
Right on.
Mike Lindell, we love you, brother. Hope to see you here over the weekend. Okay, folks, what I'm going to do is start the meet and greet, all you folks over here. If John Solomon calls in, I'll take the call over there. Is that good? Ready to roll? Let's do it. We're on the War Room. We're going to take a short hiatus.
For I commanded in the name of the Lord, that Jesus Christ of Nazareth, get thee behind me, Satan. For I commanded in the name of the Lord, Jesus Christ.
All set for President Trump to take the stage. Thousands, and I mean thousands, of people. This is what we see at every rally.
When Trump was in, everything was low, you could live, everything was great. Now it's a disaster.
Prices have gone up about 25%, and it's not the same anymore.
The Biden administration has made our lives worse by every statistical measure.
He fights for the American people versus all the other people that are coming into our country.
And he's going to fix our nation. Joe Biden's only going to give it to China and Ukraine.
He's the best guy out there. The immigration stuff's got to stop.
He is America's last stand. He is America's last chance. We need a leader who's going to fight.
President Trump is, well, he's mentally fit and he's physically fit for office.
Everything was better when President Trump was in office.
We're going to win Pennsylvania. We're all in this one common goal, and that is to save this country.
Make our nation great again. Amen.
Take a look at what happened.
I don't even know what to say right now. Apparently, we have shots fired. Apparently, there are medics at the podium right now. Oh my God. Yes! Yes!
Continuing special coverage now here in Real America's Voice of the attempted assassination of the former President Donald Trump.
You would think that the sniper team would be focused on that building. It's the obvious place for someone to go.
Nobody reacted in time.
That is a failure, and frankly, heads need to roll over that.
Something I've never seen in my lifetime.
Trump is wearing the armor of God, and he will continue to fight on.
People need to understand this is not going to get better. It's going to get worse before it gets better.
You don't think they want him dead? You'd be sadly mistaken.
This is just going to make him stronger. I just pray it wakes more people up across this country.
We all kind of knew that somewhere along the line, some nut job would take it upon themselves to listen to the celebrities, to listen to the New York Times opinion writers.
This is an explosion of emotion, spirituality, and patriotism that once again, it feels like 9/12.
Almost more of a sign that we need Donald Trump as our next president.
We know that President Trump was touched by the hand of God yesterday, spared by the hand of God.
It is now official. Donald Trump has been elected president, defeating Vice President Kamala Harris and making a political comeback unlike any in modern American politics.
Historic executive order to ban men from competing in women's sports. Illegal border crossings, the lowest ever recorded, ever. And a freeze on all foreign aid.
You're either going to make a deal or we're out.
I declared a national energy emergency. Drill, baby, drill. I withdrew from the unfair Paris Climate Accord. We ordered all federal workers to return to the office, ending the flagrant waste of taxpayer dollars. We've ended the tyranny of so-called diversity, equity, and inclusion. Our country will be woke no longer. Other countries have used tariffs against us for decades, and now it's our turn to start using them against those other countries.
We support Donald Trump's policies on tariffs 100%.
This will be indeed the golden age of America. It's coming back.
It will be like nothing that has ever been seen before. Thank you, God bless you, and God bless America.
Live from Tampa, it's the Student Action Summit on Real America's Voice. Students and young patriots gather to ignite the fight for life, liberty, and the pursuit to party. Get ready for powerhouse speakers like Donald Trump Jr., Secretary Kristi Noem, plus Rab's own Charlie Kirk, Steve Bannon, and Jack Posobiec. Over 5,000 energized voices from all 50 states. This is the generation ready to boldly defend America's freedom. The Student Action Summit starts right now.
And welcome back, everybody. I am Mike Crispy. This is Real America's Voice, and we are here in Tampa, Florida at the Student Action Summit hosted by Turning Point USA, and it has been an unbelievable day. Great speakers, and the event is just getting started, everybody. I'm joined by Bo Davidson, Michelle Backus, and, of course, Ben Berquam, who decided to stand on the platform with us, and now he's much taller. Big day so far. Michelle, what has been your main takeaways?
I would say that there are a lot of passionate kids here that are ready to make a difference. The youth vote is not lost. In fact, I think we have a lot of things to look forward to.
Yeah, Michael Knowles was here earlier, and I know we have some others to look forward to, such as Tucker Carlson. He's certainly made the news lately, Ben. I think there's a lot of things that are happening with Tucker. What's your opinion of Tucker?
It's really interesting, the whole shift in political dynamics. The camps that are kind of organizing and who's for this topic, whether it's Iran or Israel or now with Epstein, and just there is a lot happening. You know what's crazy is has it even been a week since Trump signed the big beautiful bill? 1 week today. We're not even talking about that. I mean, the movement in politics is so insane. Now, obviously, the disaster in Texas that took center stage at the beginning of the week, kind of took the air out of the room. Obviously, major devastation. President Trump being there today. But here today, it's been everything that's happening in the DOJ, the FBI, talking about Pam Bondi, and now Kash Patel saying that if Dan Bongino goes, he's going to go. Just some interesting things happening in politics, while to the backdrop of what Michelle said, amazing group of young people, what Turning Point USA is doing, cultivating that next generation, creating a bench. We have what the Democrats don't have. We are building a bench for the future of leaders that actually know what they believe and why they believe it. Not just mindless robots, not just the simps that just follow what everyone else says. This is incredibly refreshing to see the young people on the MAGA side that are standing up. And again, are willing to stand up and say, yes, we want the Epstein. We don't trust what's happening. Even if that's our president, we're willing to stand up and say this is not okay.
And another element, Ben, that you mentioned off to our left here is Steve Bannon, who just got finished with War Room. He's with a host of people doing a meet and greet right now. I don't know if we have that camera angle you guys can show, but Steve is meeting with all of his fans right now. Everybody knows Steve Bannon. And there's something, Ben, that you said a moment ago that I think you should explain to our viewers is the MAGA economy, what that means and where that's going and what it's come back from.
Yeah, so this is what you see across every sort of MAGA event, from President Trump rallies to what CPAC has become to all of Turning Point's events. There's an entire building set up over there. And by the way, Mike, it was Sheath, not Stealth. Just so we're
no teleprompter.
We've been joking about that all day.
But I do want to see. So you have a whole room set up for companies that support MAGA, that want to come out here, and they're not necessarily a MAGA company. You know, some of it's like insurance and other things, but these companies are willing to come out and stand up and not be afraid to say, I support America. There's a shift in our country that's happening. Under the first 4 years of President Trump, you had all the media, except for ourselves and a couple others, lined up against President Trump and MAGA. Now you have an entire new generation of media. During Trump's first term, you had businesses that were all afraid to come out and support the America First agenda. Now you have an entire room full of businesses that you would never, ever think would be out there supporting President Trump. The one thing I want to see, I know we got the Trump knife, I want to see the Trump AR-15 extra assault version. But that's just a wish list for me.
We got a lot of entrepreneurs here, so maybe someone's going to do that.
But Bo, there are major things happening. We are the counterculture. You can see that happening. But if we continue on the trajectory that we're on, we're going to become the culture again, and that is good for America.
Indeed. Well, speaking of culture, Michelle, you're younger than me. I can say that because I've got probably a decade on you. But we talked earlier with Sam Sorbo. I know we'll get to that interview eventually about how young women are being persuaded by, let's call it non-conservative factors, witchcraft, tarot cards, you name it, all these different things, and they're
demons,
demonic activity. Whereas men are seen to be seeking the kingdom of God, which is interesting. Why do you think, Michelle, that you're seeing a younger generation of females being swept by these cultural influences?
That really is the golden question, isn't it? Look, I think there are a multitude of factors, but I will say, just from speaking with a lot of girls my age, speaking on the streets to a lot of girls, women are frustrated and they're bitter. And there's this very interesting divide where, especially in my age group, I'll date myself here, I'm 29, you were told to go to college and get a job and work hard and climb the ladder, and feminism was pushed on you. In fact, here's an admission, I used to be a feminist, at least I thought I was, a long time ago. And so, you do go through these steps, and then you look at the women who have dedicated their lives to their career, not to Jesus, not to raising a family, not to finding a soulmate and building these relationships. And then you look back, and it's truly that question of, what do you actually have to live for? Yes, you have this career, but a lot of women are feeling empty. And I think that goes for younger generations as well. These younger women are sold this idea of feminism, this woke culture, and they believe it. And now a lot of them are waking up and realizing that this isn't actually what they want. I think it's a product of trying to destroy the nuclear family. I think it has very nefarious intentions from big government. And that's exactly why this type of thing has to exist, to show that there is a counterculture, that we can reproduce and you can have a stable family union. And that's really, honestly, what I've seen from TikTok as well, Mike. You see the trad wife movement. I'm not sure if you guys know that term.
It's a good thing. I mean, we're talking about the men, and it was asked in the interview that we did earlier, we're talking about who are the role models that the young people look up to. And we were talking about how in the male ecosphere, you have people, you talked about it, Bo, President Trump, J.D. Vance, there are other influencers. But on the female side, it's kind of hard to identify. And I think you pointed that out. And it is, or Michelle, both of you did, because you're both brilliant. But it's a great point, is that the female heroes are the ones who are raising the families. They're off the, social media grid. They're not, they're not chasing, fame. They're doing it for their family, so they don't get the credit. I want to acknowledge our sponsor here, and then we're going to go back to the stage, and want to give you a word from our sponsor, XTI Aerospace. Guys, XTI Aerospace is revolutionizing the way the world travels with the TriFan 600, a cutting-edge vertical takeoff and landing airplane that blends the vertical takeoff capability of a helicopter with the speed, comfort, and range of a business jet. Designed to carry up to 7 occupants, the TriFan 600 offers a seamless point-to-point travel experience, lifting off vertically, bypassing traffic in airports, and flying at speeds of over 300 miles an hour for up to 1,000 miles. With the ability to land wherever a helicopter can, it eliminates the need for traditional runways, delivering unmatched flexibility and efficiency. Powered by 100% sustainable aviation fuel, the TriFan 600 cuts CO2 emissions by up to 80%, setting a new benchmark for environmentally responsible aviation. As global demand grows for smarter, faster, and cleaner air mobility, XTI Aerospace stands at the forefront of the emerging vertical economy. The company's mission aligns with the executive order on unleashing American drone dominance, aimed at accelerating America's innovation in manned and unmanned VTOL aircraft. Backed by a seasoned team with experience certifying over 40 FAA-approved aircraft, XTI Aerospace is actively pursuing FAA certification for the TriFan 600 and is well-positioned to lead the next wave of aerospace innovation. XTI Aerospace is publicly traded on the NASDAQ under the ticker symbol XTIA. Go check them out right now. And we are going to now go back into the main room where the programming continues at SAS, hosted by Turning Point USA. Take it away.
Classical Christian school. Generational suffering comes from a corruption of leadership. That's the curse that happens generationally. What all of you are doing are creating a movement to break that curse.
Ladies and gentlemen, Secretary Pete Hegseth.
Well, let me tell you something. Those B-2 pilots in Missouri hear you loud and clear. Hey, what an honor it is to be here. I am so grateful. I want to thank Charlie Kirk and Turning Point USA. I didn't just show up here now. I've been here year after year because I believe so deeply in the mission of what you all represent. So give it up for Charlie Kirk, please. Obviously, this job, my day job, is the greatest professional honor I've had in my life. The opportunity to lead and serve our warriors. It's incredible. But let me start by saying, and a little bit of a message to all of you, because I'm looking out at the future of America. I think I might be looking out at some future warriors out here. And we'll get to that in a moment. I hope some of you do choose that path to raise your right hand to defend the Constitution and defend the nation, because we're going to need it. But at the same time, as I focus on, getting our military back on track and doing that job and serving the greatest commander-in-chief our country has had, we also have to remind ourselves priorities, that ultimately we serve God first. And that's the first question I ask myself every day. Am I honoring God with my actions? Am I putting Him first? And I think no matter how big your job is or how big your challenges are you seeking Him in the Word and in prayer? That's how the day needs to start, because everything else goes sideways when it doesn't. And then number two is serving your family, remembering what it's all about. My wife and daughter are here somewhere in the fog, but our 6 other kids, one of which is 15, another of which are 14, they could and should be in this audience, and they will be soon. How am I serving them? How am I directing them and giving them the perspective that all of you have about their Lord and Savior and about this country and about the threats we face and their duty to do something about it? That's my job as a father and as a husband. So yes, we're fighting for our country. But God and family come first, and I hope you remember that in all of your great pursuits, in everything that you focus on in your own life. I have had the incredible opportunity, and I wish everyone here get a chance to be in the Oval Office, and you see him because he's the most transparent president we've ever had. But to watch President Trump, whether it's the Oval Office or the Situation Room or in foreign countries, he does so much, but ultimately his willingness to put America first, apply common sense, and execute peace through strength is the core of what I get a chance to see every day. And by the way, you don't get peace without the strength part. And that's my department, the strength department. So I actually think we lead at the Defense Department, or maybe soon to be the Department of War, for all the right reasons. We lead the biggest peace department in the world. Our job is to be strong and ready and lethal so that you never have to use us. And if you use us, our capabilities are so overwhelming, our threat so looming, that we're able to conclude that mission swiftly and violently to the interests of the United States, or not have to use us at all. So the peace is preserved and deterrence sticks. And I'll never forget President Trump.
Breaking news from Real America's Voice.
John Solomon live back in Washington, D.C. John's got breaking news from the FBI. John Solomon, Steve Bannon here at Turning Point Student Action Summit. What do you got for us, brother? We got a big live audience for you.
There are reports out there tonight that Kash Patel is considering resigning alongside of Dan Bongino. It is not true. My reporting makes very clear Kash Patel is going nowhere unless the president tries to move Kash Patel. He's there for the long haul. Why is that? Because the FBI has a major investigation that looks at the last 10 years of what happened to Donald Trump as one large conspiracy case. No one's going to give that opportunity up. Now, it is true, Dan Bongino, he's taking a few days to reconsider whether he wants to stay in the job. That's his decision. He's gone through these things before. There have been times when he's been on radio. He got mad, took a couple days off. I bet you he'll come back when it's all done. But Kash Patel is going nowheres. And I think next week, over the next 10 days, the base who's been wondering, where's all that accountability? They're going to get some big surprises over the next week concerning where the conspiracy began a few weeks before Crossfire Hurricane was open and when it ended, all the way in 2024, when they were still trying to pursue Donald Trump to keep him from winning the presidency. There's a big case that's been built by the Justice Department and the FBI. It's been masked by a lot of this infighting and drama and soap opera stuff, but the truth of the matter is MAGA base Americans are going to be happy when they see where this is all heading in the next few weeks. Kash Patel's going nowhere. I hope Dan Bongino isn't going anywhere, but I do think he's going to take some time over the weekend to think that through.
So hold it. We got 3 huge leads there.
Yep.
Number one, I want to go back. You're saying the 10-year conspiracy against President Trump to try to thwart his first term, steal the second term,
right,
and basically surround him in his second term or third victory.
Yep.
That has been an ongoing investigation that the FBI has already doing.
Yeah.
Does the
There's
Brennan
been a conspiracy case? There was hinted at. In fact, this was hinted at, Steve, in some of the media reporting, but I've got it confirmed. There's a conspiracy case that was opened that looks at this window as a very large window. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a special prosecutor named by Pam Bondi in the next week or two. And why does this become significant? Because you don't have to necessarily then bring the grand jury or the indictment in Washington, D.C., where the 90% Democrat jury pool probably won't convict even if they had a murder. It allows them to go to someplace like Florida. One act of the overt conspiracy could very well be, Steve, that they raided President Trump's Mar-a-Lago house with false pretenses. And then you can bring the grand jury in Florida. You can bring the indictment in Florida because an overt act of the conspiracy occurred there. Maybe several overt acts of the conspiracy occurred there. You don't have to have a all-blue jury in Washington, D.C. that has Trump derangement syndrome. So this has been going on behind the scenes. I've been working on this. I decided tonight to get some of this out there. Been talking about in my show. This is a really big deal. Now, who becomes a special prosecutor? How far-ranging is it? That's to be determined by the scope memo that a Pam Bondi would write. But there is some work on a scope memo that's been done already. And there is an enormous opportunity for those of us who've been calling for accountability to see a path to it for the first time, a legitimate path, not smoke, not mirrors, a legitimate path to accountability.
Also, let me just ask you on this conspiracy, does that mean, because people talk about the statute of limits and you can only get Brennan for perjury, lying to Congress, right, that you can't get him for everything involved in Crossfire Hurricane, everything involved with the nullification project, the Russian hoax. Are you saying by being a criminal conspiracy that's still ongoing that we can go back in time 10 years and still get Brennan and still get all these guys for more serious charges of conspiracy of a coup d'etat, sir?
That's how conspiracy cases can work. You can charge a series of events into a larger conspiracy and go back beyond the window of time that the normal statute of limitations for any single crime occurred. And keep in mind, there's also, prosecutors can make a very powerful argument that if you didn't know the crime had occurred because it had been hidden, the statute of limitations could actually reset for a period of time. But I think the most likely scenario is a large conspiracy case, and it starts in the middle of July 2016 when John Brennan walks into President Obama 2 weeks before, or a few days before Crossfire Hurricane's launch, and said, hey, we have this intercepted information that Hillary Clinton has authorized a program to make it look like Donald Trump's a Russian spy and Vladimir Putin is helping him. President Obama and Brennan knew before the FBI opened up on that information that this was a dirty trick by Hillary Clinton. That would be the first overt act, and then it would carry all the way through Ukraine impeachment. It could go into the FBI refusing to look at the Chinese interference in the 2020 election as one of the overt acts. They didn't want to help Donald Trump, so they ignored a potential counterintelligence threat. It allows for a very large series of events to be wrapped into a single conspiracy and all of them to be brought into the indictment.
John, you mentioned Dan Bongino is going to take a couple of days to think about it. As he's thinking about it, is his demand that Pam Bondi resign? Is that what's on the table? If she doesn't resign, Dan Bongino is going to leave, or is he thinking about that statement he made, or at least somehow the press reporting it? He's given the president a play me or trade me. Either she goes or I go.
Yeah, it's unclear where the state of his thinking is. I think there are things that were said in the heat of a moment. Listen, Dan is a passionate guy. He's got a temper, like a lot of passionate guys do. I got a temper. I got to admit that. You say things when you're in the heat of the moment, when you're working hard to try to get the right things done. I think everybody has to calm down for the next couple of days and reevaluate what's been said, what the temper tantrums were, and move beyond that and look at the big picture. All of these people are not talk show hosts. They came to serve the President of the United States. They serve at the pleasure, and they're supposed to only focus on their service to country and the President. I think some people just taking a deep breath, reevaluating that. Kash Patel's never been talking about, as far as any of my reporting shows, he's not thinking of resigning. He's actually been helping the Justice Department and others build an important case. I think that people will calm down. There'll be a reset of this. Now, Dan may choose to leave. You know, he's left other things in the past. He might stay in this. I think he would bring a lot to the table, as he had in the first few months of a deputy director. You look at some of the things that the president just shouted out about Dan and Kash earlier this week, the reduction in the murder rate, the big arrests, rounding up the gang members and the violent offenders and all the Chinese spies and poisoners that we're arresting. I think the president's been very happy with the FBI. He's been very happy with the Justice Department. I doubt he's happy with all this sort of soap opera drama, but this is a weekend where things could be rebooted, and what things that might have been said can just wash under the bridge or not, depending how people act over the next few days.
In the conspiracy case they're putting together, is that going to have a reevaluation of Epstein, or is your understanding that the Epstein matter is dead and just move on?
Yeah, listen, I think people are going to be, I have probably read more Epstein documents than anyone. I am probably the only person that read the 2019 OPR report from cover to cover on the prosecutor's misconduct or failures. I don't want to call it misconduct, that's the wrong word. Their failures, their bad judgment in 2007 and 8 when they could have got Epstein on much serious charges. When you look at the government has almost, over the last 10 years, piecemeal, revealed everything about it. It is what it is. The guy was a pervert. He was a child predator. He had some issues with financing. There isn't a whole lot more to be found. I know a lot of people say, oh, there is, and look what Alan Dershowitz said. I know what Alan Dershowitz is talking about. Alan Dershowitz talking about the black book and the security logs, that you could take the security logs and the black book, the address book and everything, and you could come up with a client list. That's true, you could. But there isn't a ledger where, I'm telling you, because I've talked to agents who went all the way back to the beginning of this case, there was never a ledger that said, hey, I'm Jeff Epstein. On October 4th, I got $10,000 from politician B so he could sleep with his 14-year-old girl. There's no chance Jeff Epstein wrote that down. He wouldn't. And I think people have had a false expectation about how Jeff Epstein worked and how the operation worked. It was all done on the QT. Now, if you went back and you read the great reporting that the Wall Street Journal did in 2023, we know exactly who the people were, where they were, what women were involved, because the judge released a lot of this in the case. And there's not a whole lot to be had. Now, I'm going to point you in one direction, and next week I'll come on your show once I get this nailed down. But there is one interesting piece of the Epstein case that I think could come out in the next week or two. He did have a relationship with the intelligence community. Now, he wasn't an asset. He wasn't a knock. He wasn't a controlled undercover agent. He had occasional interactions on some unusual stuff that the CIA might have been interested in, or other intelligence agencies. Some of that may go all the way back to Iran-Contra. I turned up some stuff a couple days ago where Jeff Epstein, a long time ago in an interview, acknowledged that when he left Bear Stearns, his first major financial gig, he took on a client named Khashoggi in Saudi Arabia. At the time, those two were working together by Jeff Epstein's account. Khashoggi was the guy that was helping the CIA carry out Iran-Contra. I think there is a few files at CIA that the American public deserve that would break new ground. It's kind of what I'm hearing from my reporting, a little creepy stuff, but classic intelligence stuff. I do think that that is a legitimate place to demand disclosure, and I wouldn't be surprised if the president and John Ratcliffe take some action once I get what I know out into the public. But I don't think there's a lot more from the Justice Department. Pam Bondi, I think, botched the descriptions on this, raised expectations. They did the false handing out of the books, which was nothing but old, warmed over soup. But there isn't a whole lot more out there. And I think people are using different language, and it builds up an expectation for what the evidence is in there. I've seen over 30,000 pages of Epstein stuff over the last 5 years. I've written a lot about it because I care about it. I think we know most we're going to find out. I don't think there's a grand conspiracy to cover it up. Alan Dershowitz, right. You could probably figure out the clients, and it's too bad the Bush Justice Department dropped the ball back in 2008 because they could have served those women and the American people public better. But there ain't a whole lot of stuff more to be had. I do think the intelligence community should tell us about their relationship with him. He's dead. There's no reason not to hide it. And I do think that's an area of inquiry. But I think the bigger thing for MAGA, for America, for this team at Justice and FBI, focus on what the president has opened the door for, a conspiracy case that looks at the last 10 years of weaponization as an ongoing criminal conspiracy. I think that's going to be the big news next week.
Does Pam Bondi make it?
Absolutely. Listen, I don't think Donald Trump wants any people to leave. I think he wants people to get back to doing their job, put their hurt butt feelings aside, stop making this a soap opera, and do the people's business. Donald Trump got his ass off the ground 5 seconds after being shot in the head, said fight, 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 and got right back to work. He doesn't like people that look for excuses not to do their job. I think what will probably happen is that there'll be a reset meeting, right? And Pam Bondi and Kash Patel, and if Dan Bongino decides to stay, they'll all sit together with Susie. They'll get their act together. They'll focus on the big prize. Remember, they're public servants, not television prima donnas, and get back to the business of the people, which is all that Donald Trump wants of them.
John Solomon, where do we get the show, social media, all your writings? Where do people go?
I'm lucky enough to follow you every day after your 5 o'clock show on Real America's Voice, 6 o'clock on the RAV. JustTheNews.com is the website. Jay Solomon Reports, the handle on all of our social media accounts. And great job today. You guys are doing a fantastic job. Charlie deserves a lot of credit. What an amazing event. What a combination of great people and speakers and great coverage at RAV. I'm enjoying it, sitting in my office watching it tonight.
Let's give it up for John Solomon. Guys, I'm tossing it back to Central Control.
That the era of freeloading off America is also over. I'm a big fan of alliances, and we're a proud member of NATO. But an alliance can't just be about flags and conferences. It needs to be about formations and capabilities. Military alliances only work when you have actual hard power to bring to bear. And only because of President Trump is Europe stepping up and spending now what was inconceivable. Many of these countries were spending 1% on defense just in his first term. But because of President Trump's leadership, they're committed now to spending 5% of GDP on defense, which means they lead the way and we don't have to do it for them. So in closing, I just want to never forget that the motto of our great country, when I got criticism for starting a monthly prayer service at the Department of Defense, voluntary prayer service, I reminded our friends in the media, you know, the motto of our country is, "In God we trust." But the military has a long heritage of being on bended knee, appealing to heaven in the most impossible of situations. God's providence brought us here. Our founders understood that. So I want to commend you for being in these seats, for having the leadership that you have in your high schools, in your colleges, in your communities, for having the courage of your convictions to stand up and lead based on your principles. That is leadership. That is putting America first. That is showing strength, and I commend you for that. But I also hope, on behalf of a new and improved Department of Defense, that you will also take a look at serving your country, that you will consider the incredible lineage. Let me tell you something. I've never met someone who served, it's very few and far between, who regrets the day that they raised their right hand to defend their nation and try to test themselves to see whether they can stand up to the legacy of previous generations. Now, it's my job and it's President Trump's job to make sure we use those troops properly, that they're properly trained, that they have a clear mission, a limited objective that everyone understands, and they've got the best equipment in the world, which President Trump is providing. But what we really need are the best young Americans. So thank you for being here. God bless our warriors, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you. Appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you. Hi, Gwen.
And welcome back to the Real America's Voice coverage of SAS, the Student Action Summit, hosted by Turning Point USA. I am Mike Crispy, joined by Bo Davidson, Michelle Backus, and Ben Berquam. And Ben, Secretary of War, President Trump gave him a new title today. Pete Hegseth, just on the stage, what were your thoughts on the Hegseth speech? And he's had a very busy last couple of weeks, Secretary Hegseth.
Yeah, he's one of those that you look at what's he's doing on with CENTCOM and everything on the border. There's just so much going on, obviously geopolitically around the world. I love the ending of that. To actually, you think about that. I mean, who wanted to go into the military under Joe Biden? Nobody.
No one.
And if they did, they probably weren't the ones we wanted in there. Now you have a Secretary of War with the president who's getting the Nobel Peace Prize nominations, hopefully, that people can actually trust. But I got to say, what came in between there was pretty interesting, too, with John Solomon. John Solomon, obviously, Just the News, what he's been doing for so long with Real America's Voice News. When it comes to research, there's no one I trust more doing their homework than John Solomon. So his, coming out and saying what he's saying, it's very interesting. I'm glad that is not true about Cash leaving. I love Cash. But you got to look at the base. We're talking about this offline and say, how do you get the base to understand and trust that when you came out and Pam Bondi said it's all coming out? Yeah. We got the binders. Here's the first one.
Phase one.
Yeah. And then you come back and say, there's nothing there. If there was nothing there, then why come out and say that? And how do you get the trust back from that base if that's the case? Because we know there's that list. We know, and he even admitted that. We know there's a list. We know these guys were raping young girls. But if there's not evidence there to prove it, then they can't go after them. Look, the whole thing is just still suspect to me. But if they go after Crossfire Hurricane, if they've got the conspiracy evidence there to get to the bottom of all that, that's a big deal if that comes out next week. A lot to unpack there.
Listen, I still think there are some holes that definitely need to be filled in. We've all heard the testimonies from countless victims that have been on Epstein's island. However, I will say this as well, John Solomon, one of the most trusted and smartest reporters that I've ever met personally, and I know that he does do his research. Another interesting thing, I want to reiterate this as well. He's confirming Kash Patel will not step down. The only way that Kash is leaving is if the president leaves. But what you're seeing right now on social media and hearing around here as well is very different, as this has really taken center stage. The Epstein files, Pam Bondi, Dan Bongino, Kash Patel. Bo, your thoughts?
Yeah, and John said that Pam Bondi was going nowhere, which means that it sounds like there's going to be some sort of recalibration or reset. We all sit down, we have an adult conversation, say, where do we go from here? To your point, Ben, about how do you get the trust back in the base? Well, what you said, if we go back to Crossfire Hurricane, if we look at the conspiracy dating back 10 years and can punt some of those statute of limitations back, maybe there is hope to give something really meaty and trustworthy right away.
That's it. The American people, MAGA base, are looking for justice. Yes. They want prosecutions. You start doing that, people's memory will fade on some of the other things.
And to put this into context, think about it. The past however many years during COVID, we were all lied to by our government. That's why you saw so many young voters step up. They wanted transparency. They were so sick of government lying to them. We put up with that forever. That was a massive campaign promise, and that's really what we need to deliver on.
And I think everyone can agree, no matter what, Pam Bondi, this thing came out unprovoked. Nobody put a gun to her head and forced her to do this. So she had all the time in the world to prepare it, and the way in which it was released on the Sunday night after July 4th, and then she didn't have answers when she was asked the question in the White House. She fumbled it and just talked about child porn and didn't address the questions that people were talking about. It was very, very clumsy, to say the least.
And the timing of it. We just had the big, beautiful bill. We should have been talking about that. Obviously, the disaster in Texas took the air out of the room for that. But it was just the timing. Everything was odd about it.
Well, to your point as well, Mike, Pam Bondi on Fox News multiple times with those sound bites going viral. So I'm just confused. I think there are holes that need to be filled in.
And we are going to take a break, and then we're going to bring you more from the stage at the Student Action Summit hosted by Turning Point USA. Do not go anywhere.
Live from Tampa, welcome back to the Student Action Summit, right here on Real America's Voice.
And welcome back to the Student Action Summit, hosted by Turning Point USA. You are watching Real America's Voice, and we're going to bring you back to the main stage, Laura Ingraham, and a great list of speakers. We're going to give you that right now.
And I understand your concern, and I get the fact that you're very upset about this tonight. But I understand there may be some job openings at a few cannabis farms in California. Just saying. And by the way, I just covered this tonight on the Ingraham angle, but another great thing about actually doing this novel thing called enforcing immigration law is that we learn about what the Democrats really are all about. We learn about what they're hiding and why. So we learn just how badly these illegal immigrant youth, minors, are exploited after they're trafficked into the United States. We learn that Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass and Jimmy Gomez, congressman there, and all of these other congressmen, Nancy Pelosi, because she always cares about the children. She's always invoking the children. We now know that not only do they not care about the children, they are completely fine and complicit in subsidizing the cartels that are getting paid by the slave wages that are made in these farms. Because guess what? A lot of this money goes back to the cartels to pay the debt that these young migrant youth owe the cartels. So by allowing these agri scams to continue and these food processing plant scams to continue, guess what? Guess what the Democrats are allowing for? The exploitation of children. The use of children. The use of children to keep this corrupt scam of low wages and the new indentured servant class going. So they're not worried that we have kids as young as 14 years of age working 13, 14 hours a day at a cannabis farm or at a pork processing plant. They don't care about those children. They only care about the children when they can use the children to make political points. You're separating families. Because last time I checked, criminals were separated from their families every day of the week, every hour of the day, every second of the day in this country and in the Western world. But you're separating children. We care about the children. No, they do not. Donald Trump today actually talked about the children, not just the children who were tragically lost. One of the most horrific natural disasters our country has seen, which is these floodings in Texas. Not only does his heart break for them, but what we see and what we now know, beyond a doubt, is that Donald Trump cares more about protecting these kids than the liberals ever will. Ever will. $300,000 children disappeared. Disappeared. What do I mean by that? Well, when they come across the border, unaccompanied minors, what happens? They're in federal detention. They can only be there for 72 hours. Then what happens? Most of them show up with just a crumpled piece of paper and a number on it. The federal government doesn't have the time, right? Don't have the time to check these numbers. Who are the people? So these individuals go to criminals, other illegal aliens. One case in Florida that a grand jury here in Florida determined actually went to an individual who did time for child battery. One individual in Texas had 45 children sent to his address. What do you think happened to those kids? Donald Trump's making it his mission to locate these children, find out what happened to them, and make things right. That's the kind of president we have. Now, the good news on the economic front, I especially love this because it's so delicious given all of the predictable drumbeat about tariffs, right? It was like, the tariffs are going to cause inflation. And they didn't care about inflation when Biden was, creating it, but now suddenly they care about inflation. The tariffs are going to cause inflation. Tariffs are going to cause a recession. Tariffs are going to cause a spike in prices. Well, what do we find out this week? This kills the media to report it, by the way. Japanese automakers announce what? They're going to raise prices? No. Japanese automakers announced this week that they are slashing auto prices for imports coming into the United States. Now why are they doing that? Why are they doing that? They're doing that because the tariffs make them force them to be competitive. They can't pass on the cost to the consumers because we're not going to pay that, right? So they have to cut prices. That's just one of many examples. And then today, late today, it's so great on a Friday, because sometimes Fridays, news cycles aren't so great, but today was great. So Scott Besson announces, with that kind of wry smile he has, which I love, Scott Besson announces, well, it turns out that in June of this year, we have a $27 billion surplus in the United States. surplus. Now, I wonder why that happened. That happened because of the tariffs and the money that the tariffs brought into the United States. Now, let's go back a year when Sleepy Joe was getting ready for that debate and he was all shot up with a B12 or whatever the heck they were giving him, peppy pills that didn't kick in. So remember that last June, what was happening? A $74 billion budget deficit for the month of June. So in 1 year, with this president and this economic team, we've had a $100 billion swing to the green. That is awesome news. And it keeps getting, this is like that one of the infomercials, it keeps getting better. There's more. Okay, there's more. The Ginsu knife comes in really quickly. All right, on job creation. Again, America first works. Anytime someone tells you it doesn't, it does. So for job creation, last year, jobs created in the Biden administration, only 52% went to native-born Americans, okay? 52%. It's ridiculous, right? So much of it was going to illegal immigrants or foreign workers. From January to the end of June, 100% of the new jobs went to native-born Americans. Awesome. Love it. It's so great. All right. And, I know you're sad to hear this, but foreign jobs, 550,000 of those were lost to foreign workers. That's a good thing. Like, those jobs are going to Americans now, so it's all good. And this could be the best news or among the best news. Since the rise of Kami Mamdani, because that's good news. I mean, that is good news. In a hypothetical Senate primary matchup in Texas, the leading candidate is someone who hasn't even entered the race, the Democrat primary side, Senate race. Jazzy Crockett gets 35% of the vote. Jasmine. Now, why is that great? Because it tells us that the Democrat Party is so far left, it's left America. They're gone. So we have New York ready to embrace full-fledged communism with price controls, communes, not private property, abolish the police, all of that. If what he's saying is true, I mean, he could be like an Obama and just be kind of saying that, and he'll do kind of Obama stuff. So he could be doing a whole shell game on this. We don't really know. But we do know that young people who are traditionally calling themselves Democrats are really now socialists. And this is spreading in blue cities across the country. This is good news because it tells us they are totally ideas. I mean, we've seen this, right? We know how this story ends. We know how socialism ends, death, misery, suffering. And we certainly know how communism ends, the loss of freedom, the loss of real free enterprise, and obviously persecution, the end of free speech, basically what we're seeing in Europe right now, like the end of free speech. But that's where the Democrat Party is going. So they're so bollocksed up by Trump and America First and real populism, I honestly think they don't know what to do. Do you all agree with me? They're really lost. They don't know what to do. When you see Hakeem Jeffries asked about Mamdani, and you can see he kind of is like, oh my God, this could sink us, but if I say this, it'll tick them off, and then all young people will be mad. And so all he can say is, well, we have a big tent party. We have a big tent party. They kicked the pro-lifers out of the Democrat Party how many years ago? Are there any pro-life Democrats left in the United States? I don't think so. There's a lot. While all this good stuff is happening, there is a lot, and we're not gonna like everything. There's a lot that's kind of bubbling under the surface, and I know you know what I'm talking about. So I'm going to ask a few questions to all of you. How many of you are satisfied? You can clap. satisfied with the results of the Epstein investigation? Clap. Okay, I told you to clap. You guys aren't listening. I'm not going to grade you on a curve. So I was going to get to that. How many of you are not satisfied with the results of the investigation? It looks like it's going to be, and now this is like the who's going to be off the island first, right? This is like who's going to be voted off the island first. And I don't know what to believe on that. I've been around Washington long enough to know a lot of these infighting stories. A lot of them are overblown, and all these people are friends of mine. So I'm always I want to get the family back together because Lord knows we have enough on the outside coming at us. But Pam Bondi and, of course, Dan Bongino, who I adore both of them. I just want to say that for the record. But, there's some family disagreement going on there. But I think the one thing we all have to certainly agree on is that clarity of presentation and clear expectations have to be set. So we need don't exaggerate what you don't got, and don't overpromise and underdeliver. It's probably pretty important that we remember that lesson right now. But if crimes were committed against children, and we know who was committing crimes against children, those people have to rot in jail. All right, another question. How many of you are happy that we are continuing to send weapons to Ukraine? Start clapping. I'm with you on that. How many of you are in favor of carve-outs from the concept of mass deportation for agriculture or hospitality? Are you for those carve-outs? What's shocking about, just let's focus on that for a moment. And if you've watched my show, this is kind of my issue, immigration. But the American people have been very clear on what they want, right? They couldn't have been clearer. But they've been clear on this for decades. Americans do not want illegal immigration in the United States, period, end of story. They don't want it. And, when I grew up, 70s and 60s a little, but 1970s really, and, we cut our own lawn. I cut our front lawn with a push mower, emptied the bags, stuff in the woods, We cleaned our own house. It was a small house. We had family farms in Glastonbury, Connecticut. I don't recall that we had any foreign workers at those farms. My brother actually picked tobacco. If you want to know a tough job, try to pick tobacco leaves, which is what we used to have in Glastonbury. But we did all these jobs. I believe one of the most important things President Trump can do to this country, for this country, is ignore the rich donors who want to drive down wages and get everybody back to work. Everybody. Here. Do you guys agree with me that your most important lessons learned as a young person, and as a young adult, I think, were the toughest jobs and in many ways the most menial jobs? Do you agree with me? It was for me. I picked blueberries, I picked apples, I mowed lawns, I delivered newspapers, I cleaned houses, I cleaned toilets. But all of us benefit from doing the work of day-to-day life. And I think this idea that, our kids should go do this camp and that camp, that's fine. Camp is great. I went to 2 weeks for a camp once. And, my kids have gone to some camps. But I think America has to get back to first principles. Young people work for what they have. Older people should be respected, cared for and kept close to their families, not shelved away in some facility. We should celebrate and encourage big families again, families that are vibrant, open to children, and happy for what God provides. These are simple lessons that I learned as a child. And it kind of goes back to fairness and just common sense and all the homespun wisdom we all kind of grew up with. But I truly believe that when we see the promise of just the first 6 months, Trump is just getting going, mind you, just getting going. You see the promise of the first 6 months. Think about what we, as free and courageous and hardworking and united people, God-fearing people, think about what we can accomplish. We can accomplish unbelievable things for America because the other side, and sadly there is another side, is interested in destruction. They're interested in tearing down our history. They're interested in making us fearful of standing up for what we believe. They're interested in attacking law enforcement and shaking the young people's faith in fundamental American institutions. We must not let that happen. We cannot let that happen. From how we treat our police, ICE, judges, congressmen, senators, doctors, everyone who has earned his or her right to have a profession or to have a job. Treat people with respect. We must get back to that. People say that, sometimes it feels like, we're in the end times. And look, if you've traveled lately on a Spirit Airlines flight, you probably agree with me. The end times can be here. Don't I love those fights on the internet? Like, the compiling the fights on Spirit Airlines, that is just a full-time profession. But it does seem like sometimes we've just lost our way. Right? The way people dress, the way they speak, the way they talk to each other in front of children. What we celebrate as normal. But it's really not. I mean, every generation has to fight and stand up all anew for what is good and what is beautiful and what is correct and what is America, for our history, for the truth, for understanding. I mean, we all have to do it. I mean, it's not like no one gets out of here with an easy go. That's not what the Bible says. The Bible doesn't say, you're going to be born and life is going to be easy. What we believe, and even if you don't believe in the Bible, most of life is a struggle. But being the happy warrior that President Reagan, for whom I used to work, actually taught us is really the right way to go. And do you notice how generally really happy Donald Trump is now? You notice? He has a different air about him than he did in his first term. I think the brush with death, I think beating the lawfare, I think winning against all these forces, from DAs to prosecutors to the Democrats to the George Soros to all of that he was up against. I mean, he stared down all of them and said, "Oh, no, you won't. Oh, no, you won't." Because in the end, he knew that he was right about these fundamental ideas, and they were wrong. And he knew that he would. I really think he knew. And I remember first talking to him, and I'm not betraying any confidences, after he left office. Maybe it was a year after he left office, and it was 2021, into 2021. He was absolutely certain, without a doubt, that he was going to be president again. I don't even think he had a scintilla of a doubt. And I was talking with him. I was like, "Wow, that's pretty bold." And he said, "No, it's just, what we did was amazing. And we're not finished." So just as he showed us when he went back to Butler, how great was that when he went back to Butler and did the speech? When he went back, he's like, remember he stood up on the podium. I was there. It was a beautiful October day. I interviewed him afterward. When he walked out, and Elon was there, back when the Elon, halcyon days of Elon. But President Trump walks out, picks up his speech, and he said, "As I was saying." Who else is going to do that? So the next few years, these are the good old days. Remember these times. Remember what you've learned about the so-called experts, how wrong they were about Donald Trump, how wrong they were about his economy, how wrong they were about the real threats that we should be focusing on, climate change or the trans issues. They were all wrong. And on most of these issues, you were right and he was right. And we take lessons from this as we go forward. Think for yourself. Ignore the herd mentality, the conventional wisdom that they try to shove down your throat every day, whether it's in movies. They've even ruined Superman, I understand, in movies or on the internet or by some ridiculous professor. Don't go along with the cool crowd. Because I hate to tell you, you guys are the cool crowd. You're it. When we look back on 2024, and when historians, and they will write about this, they're not going to have much to say about old Joe Biden, except maybe the beach chair won his last encounter with Biden. They're not going to have much to say, like he dropped out after one debate. I'm talking about 100 years from now. Biden will be forgotten. Obama he was kind of charismatic, hope and change, first African-American president. They'll remember that. Reagan will be remembered. But they are going to remember this moment and this era as the era and the movement that reclaimed America. Remember this. Everybody, thank you so much. Great to see you. Have an amazing time. And thank you for watching. See you guys. Thank you so much. Thank you.
And welcome back to the Student Action Summit, hosted by Turning Point USA. I am Mike Crispy, and this is the Real America's Voice All-Star Panel. Bo Davidson, Michelle Backus, and of course, Ben Berquam. I want to thank our sponsor who is making all of this possible this weekend with this incredible coverage with incredible speakers. And our first sponsor is Big Trump Knife. Guys, introducing the biggest Trump victory knife, brought to you by BigTrumpKnife.com. Patriots, if you're looking to make a statement in 2025, this is the knife that does it. Introducing the Big Trump victory knife, a massive 10-inch fixed blade knife, precision forged to honor President Trump's historic 47th victory. This isn't some cheap knockoff. It's built for true Americans, featuring a 6-inch razor-sharp stainless steel blade, an American flag pack-a-wood handle engraved with Donald Trump, and a tactical belt sheath included. Ben Berquam made me do that. Perfect for EDC outdoor mission or simply displaying your loyalty loud and proud. This is the largest Trump knife ever made, and it's available only at BigTrumpKnife.com. That's BigTrumpKnife.com. It is not sold in stores. Collectors, outdoorsmen, first responders, this is for you. Whether it's for your collection or for your side, the Big Trump knife stands for strength, freedom, and American pride. Only 250 knives have been made. They are extremely limited and going fast, so don't wait. Go to BigTrumpKnife.com right now. That's BigTrumpKnife.com. Again, yeah, it's easy to remember. BigTrumpKnife.com. Celebrate the victory, show where you stand, and carry the biggest displayed in Trump Nation.
And the sheath is included.
The sheath.
It's stealthy.
I'll never get that.
I almost lost it.
All right, a fun evening here. We got a lot of great speakers continuing on. Bo, who are you looking forward to the most yet to take the stage?
Well, you know what? I just saw him walk through a little while ago, and the guy always has just a sense of swagger and style, and that's Byron Donalds.
Oh.
I've liked him for a while. You know, a couple years ago, I got to interview him, and I didn't know, I had met him and his wife at an event before he ever ran for Congress, and he was just such a good guy. But ultimately, the principles that he could bring to the state of Florida that we're in right now, I think are paramount, and I like him a lot, Ben.
I honestly, he was my favorite for VP choice in 2024.
Yeah.
I know there was the issue with Florida, but I love Byron. I can't say enough good things about him. Amazing guy.
Well, I think he has a pretty bright future ahead of him nonetheless. But let's head back out to the stage. Benny Johnson, live now. You're watching Real America's Voice. This is SAS.
An anniversary of one of the most important moments in American history. An anniversary where God saved President Trump's life. This happened this weekend, 1 year ago. Who remembers where they were the moment that they heard about this? That's how God works. Who remembers the exact moment when you heard that President Trump's life was spared by God? And the message that God had to us in that moment, which was, I'm not done with America. Good will conquer evil. Light will conquer darkness, and it was darkness that day. Darkness wanted an on-air execution of our president, and instead of a funeral, we got a revival. And we are that revival right now, tonight. And it's exciting, actually. It's an energizing moment. And God had one clear message that day. Keep fighting. Ladies and gentlemen, moments ago, seconds ago actually, President Trump was on TV talking about this moment, and he said this. Oh.
Very special.
There we go. Let's try it again.
And a lot of things have happened since then, including the presidency. So, I have an obligation to do a good job, I feel, because I was really saved. I was really saved by somebody very special.
Oh, Christ is King chant. Okay, all right. Well, Donald Trump says it. So shall we? Christ is King. Christ is King. Christ is King. It's amazing. There's another anniversary. It's amazing how this works. It sent chills down my spine when I realized it. 2 years ago, on this exact date as well, President Trump got a very different headshot. This headshot. And just like the headshot in Butler, they intended this to end President Trump. They said this was going to finish him. Whew. What did we learn here? What man intends for evil, God intends for good, right? Yeah. They had trouble with this. The problem started almost immediately. This was President Trump leaving his mugshot in Atlanta. People out in the streets cheering for Donald Trump. You hear it?
I'm talking about they got everybody.
Free Trump. This was the cheer that happened in the streets of Atlanta as soon as Trump got that mugshot. And then what happened? People started getting Trump mugshot tattoos. Rappers started rapping with Donald Trump's face behind them. That's 50 Cent. That's our rapper. This is their rapper. Okay. Oh, had to do it. Had to do it. Release the Epstein files, am I right? Yeah. Had to do it. Sorry. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a backfire of biblical proportions. God had other plans. They made murals of President Trump's mugshot. Can I ask an honest question here? What happened to all the Kamala Harris murals? Oh, I'll show you what happened to the Kamala Harris murals. Oh, yes. You want to know why? Because God had other plans. That's your country. Woo! Let's go, baby. That's your country, and that's your state. The beautiful state of Florida. I'm happy to call it home. So honored to call it home. Ooh, I love it. I love living here. Anybody from that little area? You see the really dark area called the Panhandle? It's called the Redneck Riviera. Are you from there? Anybody from the Panhandle of Florida? Proper rednecks up there. I was driving down the interstate up there. It's called 30. I was driving down it with my family. And I saw this from my car window. I pulled over. My wife's like, what are you doing? I said, I have to talk to the guy with the Daddy's Home sign on his house. This is real. You can find this guy. This guy gets fined $100 a day by his city for having Daddy's Home signs up of Donald Trump. Who's laughing now? Because the General Secretary of NATO called Trump Daddy. Come on. And then the White House releases this video. This is an official White House video. It's called Daddy's Home. I just want to get your attention. This is officially released by the White House. It has 100 million views. Watch this. All right. Pete Hegseth did great, didn't he? Yes. All right. How you like that, Usher? Okay. Usher endorses Kamala, and then he gets a Daddy's Home video. It's amazing. Amazing how Usher said he wasn't going to endorse in the 2024 election, and then the Diddy trial starts, and everyone starts asking questions, and he's on stage with Kamala endorsing. Amazing how blackmail works. Release the Epstein files. So I went to the state of Florida, and I said, why don't you give me the precinct map? Give me the precinct by precinct map of how the state votes. Look how red the state actually is. Look at this, like such an incredible. Remember when the state was a swing state? We can thank President Trump, by the way, for fixing this state. A resident of this state. And I said, like, what's going, like, I said, okay, this is great. It's all red, including Hillsborough County, where we are right now. That flipped this election cycle. And what's going on here? And then what is this? It's not red or blue. And I looked it up, and it's actually Alligator Alcatraz. What a great state. This is real. They're putting in the sign. This is real. This is not AI. They're putting in the Alligator Alcatraz. Who voted for Alligator Alcatraz? Can I get a witness? I went to Alligator Alcatraz. Turns out they have swag. That's right. Can I get one of these? That's right. I got dragged, okay, by libs because I wore that hat. That hat, by the way, was given to me by the Attorney General of this state, a fantastic Attorney General. He'll be speaking on Sunday. His name's James Uthmeyer. Anyway, I was told that that hat is the worst thing anybody's ever worn, that it's cruel and unusual, and that no young person would ever wear it. So I've brought that hat here. Would anybody like it? Let's go. The great ALX. Anybody follow ALX? Here we go. Would anybody like the Alligator Alcatraz hat? Here you go. Sorry, libs. We have more coming. Yes, that's right. And everybody will check under their seats right now. You get an alligator Alcatraz hat. And I'm sorry, I'll do that next time. It's a great idea. What's the point? What's the point of alligator? You betrayed us. What's the point of alligator Alcatraz? The point is deterrence. It's better to not have to go there. It's better to self-deport. In fact, when I was there, the entire point of that location was self-deportation. It's on an airplane runway. So as soon as an inmate comes in, a criminal alien comes in, they're given an offer to go home for free and to self-deport. And frankly, that's been working. And it's been working also on Americans. All of these Americans have self-deported. They're all gone. Raise your hand if you voted for that. Are you getting what you voted for? Democrats think this is like, Democrats have such a big self-own. When we were passing the big beautiful bill last week, Hakeem Jeffries said this on the House floor.
By the deportation machine, a deportation machine that will be unleashed on steroids by this one big ugly bill.
Who voted for a deportation machine unleashed on steroids? Thank you. Yeah, that's right. They must have missed the mass deportation now signs at the RNC convention. Who voted for this? Zero criminal aliens into our country. Who voted for the Border Patrol to make these videos on social media?
I don't see how you can hate from outside of the club. You can't even get in. Hey, let's go! Cause I'm feeling like I'm running and I'm feeling like I gotta get away. Better know that I don't and I won't ever stop, cause you know I gotta win every day.
That's your federal government, by the way. Like, that's an official Border Patrol video. So's this one. Who voted for doxing fentanyl dealers? For turning fentanyl dealers into anime memes. That's what the White House did. Did anybody vote for that? Who voted for locking up corrupt Democrat judges who are hiding criminal aliens? Who voted for locking up members of Congress who are assaulting ICE agents? I voted for that. Got what I voted for award again. Who voted for your criminal alien trespass on the southern border graph to look like that? Down to zero. And what happened in this area? What was this? What the hell happened here? Oh yeah. It's the guy who called us all garbage. Remember that? Remember how Joe Biden called us garbage? Yeah. Who remembers our response? Yeah. That's how you deal with it. But we weren't done. See, the beautiful part about how God works is that what man intended for evil, God intended for good. President Trump wasn't just driving in a garbage truck to take out the garbage. He said, I'm going to bring honor and dignity back to the working class in America. And we've done just that. Native-born Americans account for 100% of the job growth. 1.4 million native-born workers, foreign workers, minus nearly 500,000. That's what I voted for. That's America first. What God has set forth in this country is really remarkable. It sends chills down your spine when you think about it. There were families that were killed by our deep state. Robert Kennedy is part of one. Robert Kennedy saw assassinations in his family. We learned just this week that Lee Harvey Oswald was pretty much a CIA operative at this point. So the point is, look at this unification of these two great political dynasties. Who thought that this would ever happen? Now, I did think that it was a little brutal that as soon as President Trump shakes the hand of RFK Jr. and creates the Maha movement, that he starts his job at McDonald's. I did think that That was kind of rough. I mean, who's proud to have a servant leader as president? How incredible is this? It's arguably, I would say, the most iconic photos ever taken on a campaign trail. And McDonald's will never do the same. Just change your name to Donald's, after all. Like, you just get rid, just fix it, okay? It's so iconic. You can just call it what it is. We're having too much fun. Okay. I like how they trolled RFK, by the way. R.I.P. Elon. We loved it. R.I.P. Elon. We loved it. Nothing but love. But I love how they trolled RFK. Like, as soon as RFK got the job, Trump force-fed him McDonald's. RFK got back at him, though. Who's happy that poisons are banned from our foods now? Who's fully maha? What an incredible moment. Who's proud that the man that President Trump put into that position fired the entire vaccine board day one that brought us the COVID vaccine? It's a thing of beauty. I could go on and on and on and on about this, about how what man intended for evil, God intended for good. And the boomerang effect is just beautiful. It's just glorious. But I don't have a better video than this one. Who voted for your White House to have B-2 bombers flying over it on the 4th of July last weekend while the national anthem played? Oh, it was just gorgeous. Oh, we got another one. I voted for that. Raise your hand if you voted for that, baby. One other thing I voted for, and it might be a niche issue, might be a small niche issue, but I also voted for Melania doing the Trump dance on the balcony. This is the first time in American history we've seen Melania hit the Trump dance. Let's go, girl. There you go. So don't forget where we've come from. I know that there are some battles that we are fighting right now. I know those battles are brutal. And you're never going to agree with anybody 100% of the time. And these things have to shake themselves out. That's just how it goes. Man is fallen. But I'll tell you what. God gave us an option. God saved President Trump's life. I'm eternally thankful for it. And I'm so thankful that these two are in the White House right now. And that she is not in the White House right now.
You have the same power.
You can
that
do
you
it.
Did before November.
I mean, you can do it.
And you have the same purpose that you did.
It's great. You just do it. Does this mean Diddy's single? That was Kamala Harris on the night of 4th of July. Let's check in on Joe Biden on 4th of July night. Okay. Yeah. All right. He's out. No, I'll take this any day. Am I right? Yes. I'll take it any day. Okay? So, ladies and gentlemen, I'll end with this. Never forget the message that God sent us on this day. Because this was a clear message, and he actually channeled Donald Trump in this moment. He channeled Trump, and I'm not even sure it was Trump speaking when he said it. Fight. Keep fighting. God's not done with our country yet. All we must do as a Christian nation, as a godly nation, is stand and fight. Will you stand with me and fight? This is the country we're fighting for. This is America first. America first means my American family first. first. My American children first. Ladies and gentlemen, I cannot encourage you enough. Young men and young women, if you want that motivation to keep fighting, have a family. Am I right? Moms and dads out there, can I get a hallelujah? Have a family. Have children to fight for. Have something where you can dig your heels into this black earth on this beautiful land and say, I will give my children a better country than I found it. That will be my blessing to my children. It is the greatest motivator. I'm telling you, I beg of you. Young kids out there, start families. I have a perfect example for you. Couldn't you welcome my family to the stage? They're all backstage. I have, this is a bit of a risk, but I see that we have a minute left, so why not? Ladies and gentlemen, my family. This is my wife, Nurse Kate. This is Eloise and Juliet. This is Theodore. What's up, buddy? And this is Whitaker. What's up, man? Say hi, wave. It's Eloise's birthday, and for her birthday present, she wanted to tell you something. Is that okay? All right, here we go.
I'm gonna be 5 soon.
And what's your name?
I'm Eloise.
Yeah. Do you like Donald Trump?
Yeah, I do.
Happy birthday, Eloise and Theo. All right. Happy birthday to you. You want to say thank you?
Thank you.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, I promised them a dance party before we go. Can we do a Trump dance party together? Here we go. Let's rock and roll. God bless all of you. America first means our American families first. I love you. We love you. Thank you from the Johnson family. God bless you. Let's go. Crank it, boys.
Sweeping the internet and winning him a lot of fans across the globe. Trump's dance moves were on show throughout and even after his election campaign. And it seems like everyone wants to hop on the bandwagon.
All right, everybody. Benny Johnson, love that guy, love that family. Family is what it's all about. Going down to Texas, spending the time watching the tragedy down there. I think about my girls. That's what life is all about. Raising up your family, finding God, finding a purpose in your life. I've got an awesome next guest. Some of you guys know Anomaly. You and I met, I don't know, like you said, 10 years ago, back in California.
Yeah.
When I was there, you were there. We both escaped. We both moved back to America. I'm in Arkansas. Did you say where you're?
Tennessee.
Okay, Tennessee. All right. People always ask me where I'm at now. I just say Freedom, Arkansas. Because I started having crazies show up at my house in California. And I was like, if I have to shoot this person, I'm going to be in trouble. I want to go to a state where at least the law enforcement backs me up.
California's got a lot of bad laws, a lot of bad business laws, self-protection laws. It's a beautiful landscape, but has a lot to be desired on the political side.
Yeah, no, a lot of places are unlivable. I'm like, why are we paying $7 for gas? Why am I paying the highest rate of taxes and being mistreated for it? At some point you say...
Gas too, yeah.
Out of control.
And people that don't drive, obviously it doesn't affect, but the working people, the people that have to drive every day, Uber, truck drivers, et cetera, it's... When you move elsewhere, you're like, wait, it's this much?
Yeah. Oh, what? I can actually live on my income? This is crazy.
Crazy.
So, Anomaly, one of the things that I really appreciate and respected about you when I met you, we disagree, and we still do. There's things we disagree on. But your approach to issues, where you come at it from a very thoughtful, you've obviously thought through it, and a willingness to dialogue. You look at the direction where we were under cancel culture and the direction we're going now. Are you hopeful for the way we're going, or where do you think we're at in that paradigm of openness, conversation, common ground, dialogue?
I'm super hopeful. If you disagree with me on anything, I'm sorry, because I hate when people are wrong. No, I'm just kidding. But
I love that.
It's been great, man. I think as far as the last 5-6 years, during COVID, it was really dark times, and I think Elon put a lot of pressure on Zuckerberg and Facebook to kind of let the algorithm fly a little bit more. So it seems a lot more promising. And I think even in the Republican Party, I hear this talking point a lot. People say, you know, we don't want to fight a lot because the Democrats don't fight and that's why they beat us. But the thing is, when you're fake, like it would be like if I had a bunch of pie on my face and you're like, you look great. It's like, I don't look great.
Are you talking about trannies? No.
It's just, it depends how canceled you want to get today. But no, you know, it's like, it's okay to disagree. Like even on the Epstein stuff, I think it's okay to apply pressure to your party. Be respectful and polite if you can, but at the same time, when you pretend to agree on everything when you don't, that's just called being fake. So, you know, the Republicans, I think, need to unify at the ballot box because they understand that that's the lesser of two evils. But this idea that we have to just agree on everything, I think it's really damaging because, you know, Trump in many ways has moved the party forward and people are grateful of that. He's such an exciting guy, but in many ways he's so likable, he's hard to counter. So I think we need a healthy balance of that. And
I absolutely agree. I mean, that's the Republican Party. That's why we got Trump, because the people, the average voters, were sick of the lies from the political class, the Republicans, the establishment, the elites. So you have to have that. I spent most of my time in California going after Democrats and Republicans, the ones that were, say, like David Valadao, who said he was on our side, but voted with the Democrats. I think we absolutely need more of that than less of it.
Absolutely. I mean, it's, you know, I think as long as people are civil and cordial and just don't get emotionally like run away, it's okay to disagree. And I think that's why I'm considered controversial. I think I'm a nice guy, but I'm considered controversial because I think we need to challenge our party. And I think that even Trump, he's not infallible. And he's such an interesting guy. He's such a funny guy. Every time you're annoyed at him, he comes out with a banger clip where, like when he was like, listen, okay, Ukraine. Or no, he was talking about Israel, Iran. They don't know what the F they're doing. Yeah. I was like, damn it. I was like, I love this clip. So he's hard to challenge, but I think even with Bongino, Kash Patel, Pam Bondi, healthy dialogue is okay. There's nothing wrong with it, and it doesn't make you a traitor.
All right, we got Megyn Kelly. We've got Charlie Kirk up here. We're going to go to them real quick. Where can people follow you and continue to support the work you're doing?
Don't follow me in person because then that's a felony. Weird, but no, I appreciate y'all. And Dream Rare on Instagram, dreamrarelinks.com. Thank you for having me, and thank you, Real America Voice, for letting me speak my mind. God bless.
God bless you guys. Check him out. We're heading back to the stage, though.
Raise your hand if it matters a lot to you. Raise your hand. So every hand of 7,000 people.
Everybody cares.
A lot. I said a lot. Every hand.
Here's what I think is happening. I don't think President Trump is focused on this. He's focused on a lot of other things which are going great, and he needs to be focused on those other things. Jeffrey Epstein's not the most important thing on his agenda by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, he's crushing it on the tariffs, foreign policy, just got nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. If not Trump, then who? Honestly. Barack Obama got the Nobel Peace Prize after 9 months in office. He had done nothing. He gave a nice speech about Muslims and they gave it to him. So President Trump should be getting the Nobel Peace Prize, and there's all sorts of things he's focused on. I just don't think this has captured his attention quite yet. But it needs to, because it's starting to create a real hornet's nest within the administration. And I've got to be honest, I blame Pam Bondi. I'll tell you why, okay? I have nothing, yes, incompetence, yes. I have nothing against Pam Bondi as a human being. I was fine with her nomination and her confirmation, and she's been loyal to the president, and I get that President Trump needs a loyal attorney general. Look what happened with Sessions the first time. He went away, and then the next thing you know, we had the Mueller investigation, and it was a nightmare. But there are a lot of other people who can be loyal and competent in that job. Here, she is the reason that things are unraveling around this story right now that virtually all of the Republican Party cares deeply about. It's also true that Dan Bongino and Kash Patel had questions about Epstein before they took office, okay, before they went into the FBI. But once they joined the FBI, they said nothing. They've kept their mouths shut about Epstein. You have not seen them, except for one joint appearance with Dan and Kash on Fox, running all over the media looking for attention on this, yes, clickbaity story. Who have you seen? Pam Bondi. She has never missed an opportunity to go on television and dangle sweet nothings that might be coming your way. Try to lead you to believe that she's got it. It's on her desk. It's coming tomorrow. You're going to see something on Epstein. And it was a tease. So you either believe that Pam Bondi was telling the truth then, or that she's telling the truth now. But both cannot be true. She was either lying when she went on Fox News all those times saying, I've got it, we're looking at it, wait until you see it, it's horrible. Or she's lying in her 2-page memo that they released on a Sunday night at the tail end of a holiday weekend to Axios, as if Axios is where we all go for our news. Hell no. She went to someone she knew would not kick the tires on the story, and without signing the memo, dropped it in the dead of night and said, that's it. Take the crumbs and be happy. Refused to come out and give a presser, and give a press conference, stand there for 6 hours to the point where people are dying of boredom. They've asked all their questions. That's how you put a scandal to rest. But she wouldn't even sign her name to it. And I'm telling you, I have dollars to donuts. It's going to come out that there was internal consternation over that memo and whose name did and did not go on it and who it was and was not behind it. And so now you have a situation where her words on the record on Fox News are diametrically opposed to what she put in this memo. She's embarrassed the president. She's embarrassed herself. And Dan and Cash, to the extent they've had to sign off on that, let's understand the FBI is controlled by the DOJ. The FBI is subservient to DOJ. She's their boss. That they're in this position where the only comments they've made on the record as administration officials have been, we don't think he killed himself. And we don't think he got murdered. We think he did kill himself. We've looked at the tapes, and Cash to Joe Rogan saying, if I saw all these tapes of Jeffrey Epstein with little girls, trust me, I would show you. But I haven't seen it. Okay, so what they're saying now is consistent with what they've said since they joined the office. And that is one of the many reasons why this scandal is squarely on her. And I'm telling you, I'm of the cable news universe. I've seen it happen a million times. People get thirsty. They love to see themselves on television. They love to see their names in the Klieg lights. They love the attention. They love the little emails and texts and tweets and thumbs up they get after their appearance, and they can feel their star rising. And listen, internally, I'm told there's a bit of like a power struggle between Pam Bondi and another female administration official on who's going to be the top dog. You know, we've got a great bench behind President Trump. We've got JD. We've got Marco. You know, we've got Hegseth. We've got a lot of people who could potentially be next up. But there are some women who've got their eye on that role too. And I've been
maybe
told
one of them speaking at this event.
Oh, hell no.
Yeah.
I'm too heavy a person.
No, I know. I was talking about someone tomorrow, so that might be speaking at this event.
Oh, yeah.
But,
okay.
but Megan, you make a very astute point, and let me add to it, which is that she also brought in some of our best influencers, people that I care about deeply. Jack Posobiec, who's incredible. Libs of TikTok, Chaya. DC Drano.
Yeah.
And she gave them these binders and she humiliated them.
Yeah.
And you guys know what I'm talking about? Where she like did this stuff with the binders?
This?
And
yes.
You guys were upset, but you shouldn't be upset, the influencers. They were handed these binders like there was something incredible in them.
It is what you would do to an enemy. It would have been a brilliant operation had she loathed them and been looking to undermine them. The trick would have been perfect had this been Joe Biden's White House doing this to some of President Trump's most loyal supporters and media advocates. What happened was they invited all of them there to say hi to the vice president, to say hi to the president. Sure, they all went, of course. Who wouldn't go? To the White House to say hello to Trump? They didn't expect anything on Epstein. So they went, they said hello, and before they knew it, they were pulled into a room with Pam Bondi and Kash Patel, and she had made the binders. She bragged about making the cover sheet that read Epstein Files, Phase 1, and she handed them out. And what Liz Wheeler, who was there, told me was that she told them, there's not that much in here, but like another trove is coming. I'm going to get it from the FBI, but like here's Phase 1. Flash forward 14 hours earlier to when she was on with Jesse Waters on Fox News saying, oh, you're going to see some Epstein documents tomorrow. She knew they were bullshit. She knew that there was nothing in there. She told the influencers when she gave it to them, there's really nothing in here. I'm going to try to get you more. And in the meantime, then they funneled them out the back of the White House where all the press corps was. And the influencers are standing there with these binders. They didn't even know they were there for Epstein, and they looked foolish through no fault of their own. The only fault was they trusted her.
And these are some of our best people that we should have their back. Liz Wheeler's amazing, Jack Posobiec.
Yes.
And they got
she dinged their credibility for no reason.
100%. And did they ever get an apology for that?
No, and the only way of making it up, trust me, as somebody in the media who relies on sources, the only way she could have made up for this enormous error, and truly to this day, if you believe she knew there was nothing in there, then I don't know why she did it. She just did it to make them look like fools for fun of it. But the only way she could have made up for it was to give them a scoop. That's the only way of fixing it. When you have the scoop, when you do get the second tranche, you've got to leak something to them. You've got to let them break something. She never did, but she continued to tout that she had something. She was going to get that FBI file. Then she got caught by James O'Keefe on hidden camera saying she had tens of thousands of videos of Epstein and little children. It was like, what? Well, we never heard that. We heard he was into the barely legal type, the like 18-year-olds who look 14, but we didn't hear about children. And then because she was caught, once again, shooting off her mouth inappropriately, attorneys general of the United States normally say nothing. They say nothing.
Merrick Garland had one press conference a year.
Yes, nothing. Bill Barr, you couldn't get him to speak or say anything. Even Eric Holder was less chatty than this. So she got caught on camera, and she decided to cover up the James O'Keefe slip by then running to a real camera and being like, there are tens of thousands of videos of the children, and I'm announcing it all. So once again, she didn't give that to the influencers, and then she slides it into this memo.
So
like
I have a dumb question. Maybe it's not dumb. So it's so she had doubled down on the videos. Is that correct, Megan?
Yes. Now she's tripled down.
Epstein was not the perp in every one of those videos.
So because they've been so ambiguous,
no, but
we're
let's
not
just
sure.
think about this. Unless we're led to believe that Epstein himself personally raped all these kids, children, or whatever, then isn't the statute of limitations on child rape basically infinite?
Well,
so then why are we not indicting the people that were doing the raping that we have on video? What's that all about?
Yeah.
No, you know this better than I do. So Epstein's dead. He's met his hopefully eternal fire where he deserves in the pit of hell. But if it's true, the Attorney General of the United States said, just remind me, we have thousands of videos.
She said that we've got thousands of videos showing child pornography.
And she doubled down on that. So
tripled.
So you have to infer Jeffrey Epstein was not the only person involved in that.
Well, no, let me tell you what I've gleaned, but since she's been so ambiguous, take it with a grain of salt, okay? She won't have a presser. She won't give an interview. She won't answer any hard questions. All we get is the unsigned paper memo, 2 pages to Axios, who won't ask any questions. So what I think she's saying is that she's found, allegedly, tens of thousands of screen grabs of child pornography. They call it child sexual abuse material now. It's C-SCAN. And that's what she says they found on his hard drives, he was into this form of porn, off the internet. But separately, they say he had at least 1,000 victims, of his.
No, okay, but 1,000 victims, unless we are to believe he personally was after every one of those victims, there has to be some other bad guys still alive that are powerful that did something to these children. Why are we not impaneling a special prosecutor to find every single one of these powerful people that went after these kids? Why are we putting up with this?
Yeah, I don't know. And I think you'll find out.
Am I understanding this correctly? Because I don't even remember.
I can't answer that.
I don't even know Pam Bondi said that. I can't even remember all this because it's all over. I got a thing on my desk. I got truckloads of stuff.
Yeah, no, we all have busy lives, and President Trump has a busy life, and I don't think he realizes how much she's humiliated the administration. This is a self-inflicted wound. She caused it. Again, I have nothing against Pam Bondi, but if you want to look for the villain in this story, we have found her. She is the person she's either lying now or she was lying then. There's no two ways about it. And if you accept what's in the memo, that they don't have the goods on anybody, there's no one who can be indicted, they didn't find a trove of info on other people, then why was she trying to titillate us over a child sexual abuse case for months? She was on the air repeatedly in February, in March, again in May. It's completely inappropriate. You don't play cutesy with child sexual abuse material.
So Megan, I don't mean to interrupt. First of all, you're totally right, but the media, you've been around the space of hyper ambitious women. What is this? Analyze her for us.
Well, I think she wants to make a name for herself. What she really wants to be is a star. That's what I think she wants. That's why she runs to the cameras on Fox News. There's no other reason. Look back at the attorneys general. Seriously, do you ever remember knowing an attorney general like this? Or even having the Attorney General's voice in your head? I can barely remember Merrick Garland's weird little nasally voice, but I mean, it's in there. But the average person couldn't pick him out of a lineup, because normally attorneys general are somber, serious people who are fairly annoying, but they're schooled in the law. Pam Bondi has one trait, and I think it's why Trump chose her. She's loyal to the president. And I get it, he does need somebody loyal, especially in that position. But he has a wealth of other options.
Well, I mean, I think Judge Jeanine is amazing. Do we like Judge Jeanine? Everything I like Judge Jeanine.
Judge Jeanine would be brilliant. Harmeet Dillon would be brilliant.
So you're calling for Pam Bondi to resign or to go, but can you please tell people the breaking news? According to reports that you have verified, Kash Patel and Dan Bongino will resign if what does not happen?
If she doesn't go.
So
I only have it on Bongino.
It's all over X though.
No, I know, but let me just tell you what my reporting is. Bongino, it's Bongino or Bondi. He's not.
Who would you guys prefer, Bongino or Bondi? Okay, 7,000 to 0.
They want Dan. Of course, Dan. You know why? Because Dan understands MAGA. Dan's part of the MAGA movement. Dan's been an important piece of it and a mouthpiece for like really important ideas, and an advocate and a fierce warrior. He's been in the trenches. I mean, with all due respect to Pam Bondi, she's been in Florida. She represented the president. It's nice, but do you think she really gets MAGA? I don't think so. She wouldn't have behaved this way if she did. And now it's a time for choosing. It's a time for choosing. We're about to lose Dan for sure, and maybe Kash too, if she doesn't go. Now she's got some allies. I mean, I think Susie Wiles is close with her, and Susie Wiles is amazing. And look, there's not that many like powerful women in the administration. Maybe she wants to keep her. She's from Florida. Susie Wiles from Florida. Trump lives in Florida. But this has gone well beyond this. Like, this could actually cost Trump in the midterms. We need to make a smart choice right now. We can't lose any of the MAGA base.
And let me just also reiterate this. And by no means did I want our very big student action summit to talk about Epstein, the entire, like, of all the things. I'm not like Epstein obsessed. Some people, their YouTube channel, it's all they talk about. I think that the fact that young people can't afford homes is something we should talk about a lot more than these things endlessly. But this matters a lot. And so from a media standpoint, Megyn, you know the media better than anybody else. You've been in the media, you've been outside the media. What's this Sunday night thing? What is that? So you have a July 4th weekend after the big beautiful bill, and you leak it on a Sunday night?
To Axios.
What is that?
If you want to leak it and you want conservatives to see it, you leak it to the Daily Caller, you leak it to Fox News, you leak it to Daily Wire. You don't leak it to Axios. Our people don't read Axios. If we read Axios, it's under protest just to see what the left is saying. So it was like you saw it appear. It was like, this must be bull. There's no way this is real. There's no way. I can tell you right now, there's zero chance Dan Bongino's leaking to Axios. Zero. And Kash. So, and yet today, as we came here, there's a piece in Axios that reflects very poorly on Dan, alleging Dan only freaked out once he saw in this memo that people weren't responding well to the missing minute of the tapes of Jeffrey Epstein's cell. Do you guys know this piece of the story? And that he went into a meltdown like a little child and then threw a hissy fit. So my point is not to weigh in on the truth or falsity of that. It's false. But it is to point out that's clearly a Bondi leak. Very clearly, that's a Bondi leak. So what's clear to me from this, as a member of the media, is Bondi leaked the memo to Axios, and Bondi's doubling down by trying to get Axios to dump on Dan and trying to make him be the fall guy and or Kash be the fall guy, and she will not face the cameras. If she means what she says, fine, come out and defend it. To Dan's credit, he went on Fox a couple of weeks ago, and he got beaten up pretty good for this, and said, I think Epstein killed himself. And the base went nuts. The base doesn't believe that. But he's like, if you got other proof, show it to me. Well, if he faced the cameras and did it, she hasn't.
I'm open to it if that's true. Why don't you just tell us the prisoners' names who are on the same cell block as Jeffrey Epstein?
There's a lot.
No, that's BS. I'm sorry. The President of the United States figured out whether we have HIPAA for federal prisoners. Tell us who the other prisoners were if no one had access to it, because all of a sudden if we find out some of these prisoners had suspicious intel ties, what I'm getting at is at some point we want answers at some point.
Yeah, answer the questions. That's it.
I don't want to talk about this as long as we have, and like we have this amazing summit, and we've spent all these resources and planning.
But Charlie, wait, let me just make a case for talking about it, because It's funny because you look back at the past. Dan and Cash talked about Epstein all the time when they were in my business.
Well, that's the point. Is that hasn't been a shtick of mine.
Mine either. I've talked about it when it's bubbled up. Right? Same. But I am a lawyer by training, and I can smell BS when it's being shoveled to me. And it's very obvious to me right now that we've got spinners trying to mess with us in Washington on a story that is important. And here's why. Yes, obviously, child sexual abuse matters. And if we have some ring of pedophiles running around, outside of Hollywood, we need to know. But here's why it does matter. It's worthy of discussing at a place like this. It's about transparency. One of the main reasons that we voted Trump in was because we wanted real answers on real stories, and we didn't want to be BS'd anymore with a bunch of nonsense from our government that treated us like a bunch of stooges. Right? Thank you. And I believe Trump is still loyal to that mission. And maybe the people who are behind that memo are loyal to that mission too, but this ain't it. That would require, especially on a story they know the base has been led down with a trail of breadcrumbs to believe something else for years. This is a story, the only way to end it, if that's your goal, is you stand in front of those cameras and you take every single question your biggest critics have for you.
So let's go through a battle plan. Let's say you're senior advisor to the president. What is the 1, 2, 3 sequencing? Press conference, you would get rid of Bondi. What else to get us back on track towards transparency? I think the DOJ should immediately move to unseal all the Epstein documents in the Southern District of New York.
Yeah. Everything. Everything except child sexual assault material.
I think every file should be released to the public the same way as the JFK files. Let the American people decide.
Put them out there, because if there's nothing in there, then we can see there's nothing in there. Now listen, people who are truly conspiratorial, who will just never believe anything other than Jeffrey was murdered and there's a ring of pedophiles, they won't be satisfied, and that's fine. You're entitled to believe that. That's fine. You're entitled to your own beliefs. However, some percentage of skeptics will at least give them credit for opening the files. And we could have a situation where they open the files and Dan and Cash stand there and say, I don't know what was taken out of here before we got here. It's possible that those files are rather disappointing and they're not to blame. I don't know. Or it's possible, I just got to say this for the record, it's also possible that Jeffrey Epstein was an absolutely disgusting predator who loved just the barely legal types and did take advantage of them and didn't actually farm a bunch of girls out to a bunch of men. It's possible. And I'll say this on it. I know somebody very close to the case, so I trust implicitly. And that person has told me from the beginning that that's what happened. That Epstein was very into the girls who looked like 13, but he knew he had to hire the ones who were like 17, 18 to come in and give him massages that had the so-called happy ending. And that was really his thing. And there are over 1,000 of those.
No, I get that. But I think what people want to know is what other powerful people were involved.
Yeah, we've heard all the names who went to Epstein Island. Who went to Epstein Islands? Who specifically went on the plane? Who stayed for more than a night? That's what Alan Dershowitz is saying, and he's so right about this. He was dragged through the mud by that Virginia Giuffre.
And he won his case.
He did not molest Virginia Giuffre. It was a lie, okay? And I've done this in depth, the study of this. His name was suggested to her by somebody who thought she'd sell more books if she named a famous guy, and it was suggested to her, how about Alan, who Jeffrey knew because Alan represented him when he got arrested for transportation of a minor in prostitution. And Alan, he did represent Epstein. That's not great. He represented OJ. Isn't that worse? That's what criminal defense attorneys do. I don't judge it. We need them. We need them to kick the tires on the system. So in any event, that's how he knew Jeffrey. They weren't buddies. He wasn't like Bill Clinton palling around with him everywhere. So she got accused. She accused him unfairly. But he is saying now he thinks the entire files should be opened, even if other men like Alan get swept up into a web of you did it, and then let them rehabilitate themselves the way he did. Let them show the evidence of, I actually wasn't even in the country when I got accused. I was at a different place. I was at work. I'm on camera at the Starbucks, whatever. But why not? Given the amount of smoke around this fire, why not just open the files?
Do you think there's any intel community involvement in this?
I wouldn't be surprised one bit. I am convinced, based on my own sources and my own reporting on this story, he wasn't one of ours.
So he was an American, which leads basically 3 options: MI6, Saudi, or Mossad.
Yep.
Which one would you choose?
I guess Mossad, given his connection to Ghislaine Maxwell.
So what does that mean?
Well, I mean, it's possible that that's the reason everything's getting buried, that there is some treasure trove, and it's getting buried because...
How many people here believe that? Raise your hand. Okay, I'd say about half the hands think that it's being buried because of an Israeli thing.
It could be. I really don't know.
I have no evidence to suggest that.
No, me neither. I did think it was very odd how, look, half of you raised your hands because you've heard that theory, you've heard it debated, you have questions, but the one time Pam Bondi was asked a question about this at the cabinet meeting on Monday, she was like, and as for whether he was an agent, that I don't know. I haven't looked into that. I'll get back to you. You haven't looked into it? What do you mean you haven't? So that was kind of a fishy answer.
And Megan, remember, Alexander Acosta in 2007, he said he was told to treat Epstein carefully because he was an intel asset. That was one of Trump's cabinet secretaries who was literally a U.S. attorney 3 hours from here in Florida. He said that himself.
Well, and let me tell you the consequences of that. His subpoena, his search warrant on Jeffrey Epstein's residence was very narrow. It was not the kind of like, let's get everything. Let's see everything inside this guy's, dressers and so on. It was very, very narrowly tailored. And to this day, that's what the FBI is stuck with. So it really is possible that Dan and Cash got in there and, in like a Geraldo and Al Capone's vault situation, opened it up and we're like, oh my gosh, there's nothing in here. Like, we did not find the magic documents or photos or evidence of anything. And why not? I don't know we'll ever know why not. I'm not sure we'll ever know, but I guess I care less about that than I do about just open the books and be fully...
No, again, I don't want to feed into any of the, let's just say, speculative theories. But Alexander Acosta himself talked about intel asset. And you have to wonder that the timing of all this... Sunday night, so you have the big beautiful bill, you have Independence Day weekend. Why are you doing this on a Sunday night? Was it...
Bury it.
But you don't bury things on Sunday night.
You do on a holiday weekend. You do. Like, people are away, they're traveling back from the beach on Sunday night, they're dealing with traffic. They were too smart to think that they could get away with doing it on a Saturday night or on a Friday night. So they wanted the cover of like, we're doing it on like the night before a real news day, but Monday after July 4th is not a real news day. Everybody's still in transition.
So left unaddressed, I know this is a hypothetical, which I hate those questions. What if we just try to proceed, what does that mean?
If we just what?
Just try to proceed. No, don't address this. If the administration just tries to power through.
Her days are numbered. She can't recover from this. She's shot herself in the foot on her own credibility. I just don't think she's going to recover. And I'm sorry to be ungenerous, but I just don't think Pam Bondi is skilled enough to avoid making another mistake very soon. And so that'll probably be the one that gets her. Because President Trump, I understand fully, he doesn't want to offer a scalp in response to this. And I get it. He doesn't want to, and I understand why. Even though it's his own people, he doesn't want to look like he sold out his people. And he's loyal too. He really is. He's very loyal to the people who are loyal to him, to his credit. But I think he's also extremely smart, and he can read a room better than anybody. And I think once he realizes, thanks to an event like this, et cetera, that this does matter with the base, this is not a nothing burger for them, for all the reasons we've discussed, I think he'll decide she's a goner. It's just a question of what the excuse is, more time with her family, right? And she'll be sayonara.
And so, from a PR standpoint, so you would do an open press conference, take every possible question.
If I were Trump, I would say all three of you are going out and holding a presser. Everybody's welcome, all comers. And you're not leaving until, like, we're down to the Jim Acostas of the world. Like, you will stay until those kinds of people have gotten to ask questions. Because let me tell you something, another thing that's irritating about the whole way they've handled it is they're embarrassing other good people. Like, did you see Caroline Leavitt out there trying to answer questions on this?
And I think Caroline's great. Don't we like Caroline?
She's the best. Same.
She has nothing to do with this.
Nothing to do with it. I love her, and she has total credibility. And I watched her try to, like, spin that memo, which is her job, and I felt nothing but empathy for her. And
I agree.
And I also felt like, how dare you put her in this position? This is your stink over the DOJ. Why don't you get your own spokesperson out there to deal with it? But don't make poor Caroline sacrifice the president's credibility and hers on this dog turd of a story. So they do need to wrap it up. It should be wrapped up. And in a perfect world, Trump will say, all three of you get out there, have an open presser. Anybody can answer questions and just answer them all honestly. Short of that, like we could get to, today's Friday, we could get to Monday with Dan gone. Possibly Cash gone. Again, my reporting says Cash is staying. Others says he'll go if Bongino goes. I think one of them knows we have a country to run, and we really do need one of them there.
No, I think we need both. I mean, I'd hate to lose them both.
I do too.
And let's play this out for a second, though. Let's say Bongino leaves. Well, he's not going to keep his mouth shut. So
he's got one of these too.
He's got a big one of these. And he will come out immediately, and he will tell his side of the story, which will not help the integrity of the administration.
No.
Right? So if you let Bongino walk, you will have somebody for years that will be bitter towards the administration. And all of us
He's not going to want to hurt Trump.
No, but he'll tell the truth, and we will lose. We will be like, if Bongino can't go and fight and solve this thing, then, like, I mean, what are we doing here?
I know.
Right? If Dan Bongino, who's like one of the greatest patriots we have, cannot go and reform the FBI with Kash Patel after we win a popular vote majority,
right?
Then I will never give up. But I know for millions of people that will be met with just a sigh of cynicism.
But think about it, Charlie.
You know what I mean?
Yes, 100%. You think about, like you mentioned, Janine. Janine Pirro would take no prisoners. She's totally confirmable too. She'd be great in this role. Like, it's not like there's no bench behind Pam Bondi. Like, there is a bench. Janine could do it. Harmeet could do it. Even Matt Gaetz can't do it. I mean, he could do it, but
he's not confirmable.
Yeah, he's not confirmable.
Matt Gaetz for a special prosecutor, that would be very interesting.
Now that would be fun to watch.
Matt Gaetz with a government corruption special prosecutor.
Anyway, there are other people who could take over that role. And just think about it, because I can see the untenability of Dan and Cash staying effectively working for Pam, right? Like, they're working for her, and she seems feckless, except she seems somewhat petty and personal, given the leaks I'm reading. And she seems way too focused on being a star. It reminds me of Brian Williams of NBC. Remember how it was like, it turned out he was more interested in seeing his mug on television and telling fake stories about what a badass he allegedly was, and like Abbottabad, with SEAL Team 6 practically raiding the compound, than he was in being taken seriously and being a credible news anchor. And I'm sorry to say, I think she suffers from that same disease, and so she has to go.
Two final thoughts. Number one, everybody, just so you know, all going late tonight and all tomorrow, we are doing exclusive interviews for the Charlie Kirk Show right near Ballroom C for members only. So if you guys want to see interviews, we're going to be interviewing all the major names. We just had a conversation with Pete Hegseth and Tucker Carlson. We have big ones tomorrow, so it's at Ballroom C. They'll be happening all day. Just look at your agenda. That's right on there if you guys want to attend. Megan, last question. There's 7,000 people here, most of which are students. What advice do you have for them fighting on campus, trying to figure out what they want to do with their life? Let's do a non-Epstein end to all of this.
Awesome. Be who you are. Don't pretend you're a lefty in order to win any professor's good humor. He's not worth it. Get your D on your paper because you refuse to argue that capitalism is bad, and wear it like a badge of honor. Bring it with you into your job interview. And that will make sure you align with an employer who's right for you, right? Don't say that you support Planned Parenthood the way they want you to. Don't call yourself a feminist because your teacher will give you pats on the head. Stand up for what you really believe in, and that's how we spread the good word. That's how we convert others over to where we stand, rather than just get ahead pretending we're with them, and then only once we have power tell our true feelings. It's not worth it. Anybody who came to me with a crappy GPA from one of these elite universities and then showed me all their papers that spoke up for conservatism and America and God, faith, I would hire them in an instant over somebody who emerged with a perfect GPA, who went along to get along. That's not a leader. That's a sheep. Don't be like that. Stand up for your beliefs now when it matters.
Megan, you are amazing. God bless you. And Turning Point USA thanks you.
Thank you so much,
Megan
you guys.
Kelly.
It's great to be with you.
And we are back at Turning Point USA's Student Action Summit, aka SAS. We're here in Tampa, Florida. You just heard Megyn Kelly on stage with the great Charlie Kirk. We do want to honor one of our sponsors right now and recognize them introducing the new Trump 4547 OTF full auto knife, brought to you by thetrumpknife.com. Celebrate the journey from 45 to 47, the OTF knife that is a bold tribute for patriots and collectors alike. Head to thetrumpknife.com to secure yours. They are beautifully laser etched and have rapid deploy one-click eject mechanisms. They're triple beveled, razor sharp 420 steel blades with massive 8-inch length with 3.5-inch blade. And it's perfect for everyday concealed carry as well. Hurry now, guys. Head to thetrumpknife.com. Claim your Trump 4547 full auto OTF knife today. 70% off special just this weekend for TPUSA. The perfect combination of style, function, and patriotic pride. The Trump 4547 OTF knife is a must-have in your personal collection. The one-click rapid deployment feature makes it a must-have for use in any situation. Again, head to thetrumpknife.com and claim your Trump 4547 full auto OTF knife today. Supporting our sponsors directly supports Rev, so thank you so very much to thetrumpknife.com. Well, we're back with Michelle Backus and Mike Crispy. I'm Bo Davidson. I want to touch a bit, guys, on Megyn Kelly. We talked earlier today about who were the female role models. Is that one that we can actually point to?
I was actually thinking that as well when she was up on stage, and I do think that she is a great example. And if you caught that last thing she said, I want to get out to the stage because we do have Tucker Carlson coming, but she said she would hire someone that prioritized faith and family rather than someone with the perfect GPA from the Ivy League school. And I think that's really important because it shows how important character is and how important events like this are as well.
Well said, Michelle.
I do think we have Tucker Carlson on the stage. This has been very anticipated all day. Let's get out there right now.
I feel like I'm going to have a seizure. It's like free. Wow. Anyway, thank you so much for having me. This is more people in one place than I've seen since the last Charlie Kirk event I was at. So it's hilarious. So I noticed everyone's been talking about Epstein tonight, and I want to kind of differ from the crowd a little bit in saying that I watched Ben Shapiro yesterday, and now, before you boo me, I thought he made a really solid point. He's like, it happened a long time ago. Who cares? And by the way, we should trust the government and whatever the bureaucrats tell us. And by the way, it's wrong to ask a lot of unauthorized questions. So I just want to go on the record to say I think that's absurd. And it's exactly the kind of thinking that I've personally voted against. In the last election, I spent a lot of the month of October campaigning with and for the president. I voted for the president. I never vote for anybody generally. I know they're always telling you must vote or you can't have an opinion. Oh, shut up. I don't like to vote, but I did vote this time. And I don't like to vote because I don't believe in any of them. And this time I really felt like I know Trump well. I love Trump personally. And what we were looking at was just so awful and totalitarian and stupid. And it wasn't even the arguments that I disagreed with from the Kamala Harris. It's weird to even say her name now. Who was that exactly? It was like a bad dream. But it wasn't even so much the arguments I disagreed with, though I definitely disagreed with the arguments. It was the style of argument that drove me completely bonkers, summarized most crisply by "shut up, racist." Whatever you said, it was "shut up, racist." And it's like, but wait, first of all, I'm not a racist, but that's not even the point. The point is, I just told you what I think. I just asked you an entirely legitimate question, mostly, what the hell are you doing? And rather than answer it, you didn't pay me the respect that you would a human being. You treated me like a slave or an animal by telling me to stop barking. Shut up, racist. And I won't put up with that because I'm not a slave or an animal. I'm an American citizen, an adult man who pays his taxes. So, I ask people questions for a living, and very often I get answers that I don't care for, that I disagree with, that I think are stupid. But at least they're answers. At least the person responding is treating me like a human being with a soul created in the image of the Creator. He's paying me the respect that every human being is due When you ask a direct question to someone in charge, you are due. That person is morally bound to give you an answer. He's not bound to agree with you, but he's bound to stop and answer your question. And the left never did that. They would dismiss you out of hand. You are not worth listening to. Be quiet. And that's, of course, where the impulse to censorship comes from. It comes from the belief that you don't deserve to speak because you're not fully human. They own you. And that's what I voted against above all. I mean, I voted against a million different things that I hated about the last administration. Their insane desire to start pointless wars around the world. Their total unwillingness to protect this country domestically, to protect the people who live here, to protect the territorial integrity of the country, bringing in tens of millions of people illegally, giving them free stuff the second they get here, making a mockery of citizenship. I hated all of that. I hated all of that. But the thing I hated most was their total unwillingness to answer any question about why they were doing what they were doing, because it was just too insulting. And every single time I would just feel like raising the middle finger and screaming obscenities, which is not an adult response, I'll concede, but that's how I felt. And I think that's really at the heart of why the Epstein thing is so distressing. I mean, the guy was some weird sex freak who was abusing girls. We knew that. But the fact that the US government, the one that I voted for, refused to take my question seriously and instead said, case closed, shut up, conspiracy theorist, was too much for me. And I don't think the rest of us should be satisfied with that. And by the way, let me just say really quickly, because I was so mad about it that I think I found out part of what's going on. I think we are going to find out more. And I think the truth, for whatever it's worth, in case you're interested, is that the DOJ didn't release lots of incriminating sex videos with Epstein and his billionaire pals because they don't have them. They don't have them because when the original search warrant was served, 2007, I think, possibly 2006, I think 7, it was basically designed to protect Epstein. The search warrant was written in such a way to make sure that the feds never got their hands on the actually incriminating evidence. It's another way of saying the cover-up has been going on since 2007, almost 20 years. And so the real question is not, was Jeffrey Epstein a weirdo who was abusing girls? Yes, we can answer that. The real question is, why was he doing this, on whose behalf, and where did the money come from? And those are the questions that need to be answered. And I think it's entirely fair to ask them. And it's not adequate to say anyone who asked them is somehow desecrating the memory of little girls who died in Texas. I'm not going to put up with that answer. I don't care who gives that answer. That is not acceptable. And I think the real answer is Jeffrey Epstein was working on behalf of intel services, probably not American. And we have every right to ask, on whose behalf was he working? How does a guy go from being a math teacher at the Dalton School in the late 70s with no college degree to having multiple airplanes, a private island, and the largest residential house in Manhattan? Where did all the money come from? And no one has ever gotten to the bottom of that because no one has ever tried. And moreover, it's extremely obvious to anyone who watches that this guy had direct connections to a foreign government. Now, no one's allowed to say that that foreign government is Israel because we have been somehow cowed into thinking that that's naughty. There is nothing wrong with saying that. There is nothing hateful about saying that. There's nothing anti-Semitic about saying that. There's nothing even anti-Israel about saying that. I've spent my entire life pretty much in Washington, where I knew and loved a number of people, including one very close person who worked at CIA. That has never prohibited me from saying, I think the CIA has done some horrible things, murdered a bunch of people, participated in the murder of a sitting U.S. president. It's got a whole trail of crimes. That doesn't make me a disloyal American. It doesn't make me anti-American in any sense. I was born here. My family's been here for hundreds of years. I love this country. That's why I live here. So criticizing the behavior of a government agency does not make you a hater. It makes you a free person. It makes you a citizen. You're allowed to do that because you're not a slave. You're a citizen. And you have a right to expect that your government will not act against your interests, and you have a right to demand that foreign governments not be allowed to act against your interests. That's not creepy. It shouldn't be forbidden. And yet all of us have trained ourselves to believe that you can't say that somehow, that that's like too naughty and forbidden. And the effect of making that off limits has been to create a lot of resentment, and I'll say it, hate online, where people feel like they can't just say, like, what the hell is this? You have the former Israeli prime minister living in your house. You have had all this contact with the foreign government. Were you working on behalf of Mossad? Were you running a blackmail operation on behalf of foreign government? By the way, every single person in Washington, D.C. thinks that. I've never met anyone who doesn't think that. I don't know any of them that hate Israel, but no one feels they can say that. Why? And I think the longer that we play along with it, the more subterranean and creepy and hateful the conversation actually becomes. So I think it's better just to say it right out loud. Did this happen? And of course, that question has been asked to the government of Israel, and their answer is, we're not going to tell you. And I think our answer should be, no. As long as we're sending you money, if you were committing crimes on our soil, we have an absolute right to know, did you do this or not? And yet everybody has been so brainwashed into thinking that's somehow an expression of hate or bigotry, when it's not. It's a baseline question that every U.S. citizen has a right to an answer on. What the hell was this? And by the way, if it turns out that it was nothing at all, that somehow Jeffrey Epstein really did earn $165 million giving tax advice to somebody, which is, for the record, a lot more than most people pay their accountants, and that none of this was actually a foreign intel operation, and that there was no blackmail involved, that actually Bill Gates was just hanging on the island because the weather was especially good. No one was videotaped doing anything immoral or illegal, and then that was used against them to get them to obey. If all of that is false, then just tell me how it's false. But don't call me a lunatic. And when Fox News runs a piece, as they did yesterday by Hugh Hewitt, saying that anybody who's got even more questions about Epstein is some kind of nutcase with an unhappy personal life, who's spending too much time on Twitter in the fervid fever swamps of conspiracies, up yours, buddy. Then why don't you answer the question then? Don't let anybody insult you, anybody, and I mean anybody, ever get away with insulting you instead of answering a legitimate question. Okay? Ever. And by the way, you will hear certain people say, well, that means you hate the person. No, it doesn't. I've got a bunch of kids. I would never let them get away with that. If I caught one of my kids, smoking weed in the bathroom at my house, and I was like, are you smoking weed in the bathroom? Shut up, racist. You hate me. No, you're my child. I don't hate you. Answer the freaking question. Were you smoking weed in the bathroom or not? I'm not the criminal here. You seem to be. So I just think it's really important to get into that headspace. And even now, when people talk about this topic, I can promise you, since I spent all day on the phone yesterday on this topic with informed people, they're like whispering certain words. And I'm like, why are we whispering? Why should I be ashamed as an American about wanting to know what the hell that just was? Why should I be embarrassed? I'm not the bad guy here. Why should I be embarrassed to ask, what's in this war for us? We got to go to war. Shut up. You're a bigot if you don't want it. First of all, I'm not a bigot. But second, that's kind of not the point. The point is, what's in it for us? Why is this a good idea? Shut up. And it's exactly the style of argument that I voted against, and I will never accept it. I don't care who does it. I will never accept that. Give me a legitimate answer, a reasonable answer, a sincere answer, a good faith answer. We may disagree. You may say, as a good friend of mine who's like totally deranged, but a good person, said to me yesterday, Iran is the biggest state sponsor of terrorism in the world. Reading the talking point that apparently everyone, a bumper sticker that is for sale somewhere, I guess. And I'm like, okay, I don't even know what that means exactly, but how many Americans have been killed by Shia terrorism in my lifetime, which is 56 years? I can't think of any. I'm sure there have been some in the United States. There have been Shia terror attacks sponsored by Iran in the U.S. I can't think of any. There was 9/11. That was a Sunni terror attack. And then there's the drug epidemic, which has killed more than 1 million people during that same period. People I know, my next door neighbor's kid, dead. People, a bunch of people I know have died, and a bunch have been totally screwed up and taken out of life, basically. Their lives have been hollowed out. They're husks. They've been totally destroyed by drugs. That's the reality that I live in the United States. So you're telling me Iran is a bigger threat than the people peddling this garbage? I don't think so. Not where I live, it's not. Oh, shut up. And the person literally said, you know, we're going to have to agree to disagree. Disagree with what? What are you even talking about? But at least he gave me an answer. He didn't say, oh, you hate so-and-so. He didn't go immediately to motive. Okay, so this is always the tell. This is when you know you're dealing with someone who has zero interest in getting to the truth of the question and instead is trying to make you be quiet in order to roll over you and make you obey. And the tell is when they go immediately to motive. Well, you just hate some group, or you're taking money from some other group. And neither one happens to be true in my case, but I always feel like saying, well, okay, what if I am getting paid? Or what if I have some kind of creepy bigotry? Which I don't, because I think it's immoral. God created individuals. Each one knows the hairs on your head. Each person has a soul. No person is seen by God as a member of a group. Each person is seen by God as an individual. So I don't like that. And I really don't. I'm not just saying that. And I mean every individual on the planet, regardless of what he looks like or what he believes. That is true of every person. And I sincerely mean that. But even if I didn't, maybe I was some like full wacko. And maybe I was like taking tons of money from some bad country, one of the bad countries you're not allowed to talk about or like. Qatar! That's the most hilarious. Qatar is kind of controlling our conversation. Qatar, evil Qatar. I am laughing. I've actually been to Qatar. It's awesome. Never taken $1 from the Qataris or the Qataris or whatever they're called. It's a great country. But whatever. But even if I was like on the payroll of Qatar, which I guess I can't now. But anyway, even if I was, it still wouldn't make the question any less relevant. Why is this a good idea? And their refusal to answer that question lets you know right away that you are not dealing with a person of good faith. You're dealing with a propagandist who is trying to control you. And I would say at exactly that point, that's when you say out loud, I know who you are. This is all fake. You can't even answer the question. You're trying to make me shut up because I'm a bigot, like the liberals did 7 months ago. And that's why we voted them out. So I'm not putting up with that. I voted against this and I won't tolerate it. So the second point I would make, before maybe taking a couple of your hostile questions, I hope, about Qatar, is I was brooding about this today. What about the Epstein story is so uniquely infuriating? And I'll just say, I mean, I've never met Epstein, but I mean, I know 1 million people who knew Jeffrey Epstein. It is true that he was around. Like, everyone knew Jeffrey Epstein. I don't think I was cool enough to actually meet him, but like, he was just a guy who was kind of circulating around, like this rich guy who knew everybody. What is it? And everyone knew he was a creep, but then there are a lot of creeps in that world. Just telling you what you probably know already. What is it about Jeffrey Epstein that's so infuriating to people, so infuriating that it's actually causing seismic political problems? And I hope that they'll address it and it'll get better. I really do. But what is it? I'll tell you what it is. It's the frustration of normal people watching a certain class of people get away with everything every single time. That's what it is. And that drives me absolutely bonkers. By the way, it's one of the things that bothers me about immigration. You know, as someone who got arrested in Syracuse, New York as a kid because I had an expired driver's license and brought to a cell, I'm watching people come. That actually happened. I have done time. It does change a man. Yes, I joined a gang. But I watch, 60 million people come into the country illegally or overstay their fake refugee status or whatever. I mean, the whole thing's a scam. And they get housing vouchers and free education and free cell phones and plane tickets. It's like, wait a second. Not only are they not getting punished for breaking American law, as I would and have, they're getting rewarded for it. The unfairness of it drives you crazy. And it's particularly galling in the case of Jeffrey Epstein and the whole constellation of people around Jeffrey Epstein, all of whom seem to be getting away with scams. And how do you know they're getting away with scams? I'll tell you how, because they're useless and they're rich. So how do you come to a place where some of the least impressive, most useless people who have no actual skills become billionaires? How's that legitimate? And by the way, if you ask this question, at least in Washington, it's like, oh, well, yeah, sounds like you're a socialist. Sounds like socialism. Yeah, okay, I'm a socialist now. All right. I was a Qatari agent or a bigot. Now I'm a socialist. All right. Leaving aside my committed socialism, can you answer the question? How did Bill Ackman get $9 billion? Bill Ackman, a pretty impressive guy? I know Bill Ackman. No. Bill Ackman's like well-connected and super aggressive. That's it. And I think, well-connected, super aggressive people deserve a fair living like everybody else. But if you're accruing $9 million just because you're willing to do anything, I don't know why we have to pretend that's good. How did Epstein get 4 Gulf Streams? How did he get an island, a massive ranch in New Mexico, the biggest house in New York? Like, what is that? Like, at some point, the basic economics really matter. And they matter because, not that it's bad that rich people are getting richer, it's bad that everyone else is getting poorer. And it's especially bad that young people can't afford homes. Let me just put a very precise point on this. If you want a measure of how your economy is doing, I personally favor eliminating GDP as a measure. I don't even know what that is. It's clearly not relevant. They tell me Japan has a stagnant GDP. Have you been to Tokyo? It's the single most radicalizing experience you'll ever have because it's just so nice. You lost the war? Really? Can we lose a war and wind up like this? GDP. No. I don't know what even that is. The total economic activity. Oh, no. My measure is really simple. I've got a bunch of kids. Can they afford houses with full-time jobs at like 27, 28? And the answer is no way. And the answer is that 35-year-olds with really good jobs can't afford a house unless they stretch and go deep into debt. And I just think that's a total disaster. That's a complete disaster. Why? 2 reasons. One, if people don't own things, they don't feel ownership of the country they're in. And the country gets super volatile because people feel like they've got nothing to lose. When you have a lawn, trust me, you're thinking long term. Second, it's really hard to have a family without a house. It is. It's like super fun to live in an apartment if, there's like a bar downstairs, you're in a cool neighborhood. I'm in East Village. It's so cool. Try to have 3 kids. You're not going to have 3 kids there. You can't. Nobody wants to raise their kids in that neighborhood. Nobody wants to raise their kids in an apartment. People do it because they have to. Nobody wants to. People want a little house, not some McMansion, just a little normal house. That is the actual American dream. And that is what is totally unattainable for young people. And so the only young people in general that you will ever meet who have houses are young people whose parents helped them. And God bless their parents. That's a perfectly great thing to do for your kids. But most people's parents can't afford to do that because they're already in debt from their pointless college degree. So that is a national emergency. And I know that there are certain cable channels that are spending all this time talking about, they're about to elect a socialist in New York City, which obviously I'm opposed to it. He's not even a real socialist. He's like a trainee vax, rich kid liberal guy. Mom Donnie. He's a fake leftist, but whatever. Why do you think that's happening? One of the reasons it's happening is because normal people with normal jobs no longer believe they can win in this system and that all the money is going to the worst people. And no one even stops to ask, what the hell is going on? How did Bill Ackman get so rich? I know he went on CNBC and talked down Herbalife. Bet against companies by driving down their stock prices. That's what he's been accused of. I'm not accusing him here because he's sue me if I do. I'm just suggesting others believe that might have happened. He's already threatened to sue me for saying that. But there are plenty of people who do that. And I'm not saying even that it should be illegal. What I'm saying is that our leadership class should say something about it and should assign a moral value to it. And if you're getting rich by loaning money to people at incredibly high interest rates, that's something you're going to have to talk to God about. That is not good. That is not virtuous. That's disgusting. And the fact that nobody feels free to say that, nobody feels like you can just say 30% on a credit card? Why is anybody paying a credit card bill? I said to somebody recently, I feel like I'm very moderate and sensible and, well, yeah, that's what they used to call it. It was forbidden. I said to someone recently, you know, we really need a political party where people just like, it's the, hey, I'm not paying my credit card bill party. And let's just bring down Citibank. Just not permanently, maybe permanently. But what credit card debt is the single biggest cause of human suffering that I'm aware of in the United States. It's not Iran. Iran's not doing that. Oh, you, a tool of the Ayatollah. No, I'm actually Episcopalian, not Shiite. Not a tool of the Ayatollah. I'm just very committed to observing physical reality and drawing my conclusions from that. I'm what we call a physicalist. I believe in the things right in front of me, the things I can touch and smell. And the people I can touch and smell are suffering not from Iran, not from Qatar. They're suffering from their credit cards and their inability of their kids to buy a house. Dan Crenshaw. Yeah. I don't think Dan Crenshaw is sold on this. Dan Crenshaw believes our threats are in other countries. Okay, they may be, but how are they bigger than credit card interest? So I suggested this person, who's a really good guy, I was like, hey, why don't we start, I'm not going to pay my credit card bill party, or I'm not going to pay my mortgage. You know, because they always say, like, if the very rich, if you borrow enough from a bank, you're kind of in charge of the bank because they need you to pay them back, so they're totally happy to negotiate terms with you. But if you borrow a little bit from the bank, they'll just take your house away. So what if people got together and just decided, wait a second, 30% interest is a lot, especially since they're pushing credit cards on kids like crack. And I know that conservatives are always like, well, it's your fault if you don't pay back the credit card. Yeah, okay, it's my fault, but maybe it's a little bit their fault too. They're pushing this crap on kids. So I say to this guy, maybe just people get together, not like everybody, but just a couple million people are not going to pay our credit cards, and just like bring the bank to its knees, and the CEO weeps on television, they readjust it down a little bit. And he goes, oh, no, that's radical. That's too radical. And I'm like, I don't think I'm very radical. I think I'm like very moderate, super moderate. I hate change. My parents got divorced. I hate change. I like things to be exactly the same every day. I'm not radical. What I am is very worried that if we don't do something really soon, we're going to wind up like New York City. That there's going to be actual radicalism. And that radicalism will take very unhelpful forms. And you're going to see race and ethnic hatred that's real. And that you're going to see people behaving in hard to control ways. If you deny people what they actually want long enough, and instead substitute things that you claim they should want, like bombing Iran. You know, I mean, I'm not for Iran, where you spend all day telling me that it's so important that, you know, boys not playing girls' soccer teams, whatever. I agree. I hate the tranny stuff passionately. I think you should keep the boys off girls' soccer teams. But I don't know. It kind of feels like you're feeding me appetizers. At some point, I want to look around and see a better country. I want to see a country I recognize. I don't want to see people sleeping on the sidewalk. I don't see people ODing on drugs. I want to know where those drugs coming from. Why can't you stop it? You've got the U.S. military. Don't you have SEAL Team 6? Like, what are they doing today? Don't you have Delta Force? You could give me another segment about how impressive the U.S. military is? I believe you. Why aren't they employed to make my country better? Why are my cities disgusting? I don't even want to go there. It smells like weed and halal food. And you're lecturing me about how it's a great moral victory that I kicked the boys off the girls' soccer team? Good, I'm so glad. But let's do the real stuff, like making New York livable. And create an economy where my kids can have kids. How about this? How about we just make the measure really super simple? Can my children have without the benefit of like the great luck I have had, can they have a roughly approximate life that I had? Or how about just a middle-class life? Can they like get married young, as I did, and like have 4 kids and, you know, take a couple jobs, work hard and all that stuff? But in the end, it's like, fine. Can they do that? Or is that like so remote a possibility that you need to tell me that Iran is the real threat? Take my mind off the fact that you stole all the money and screwed up my country beyond recognition. So I guess what I would say before I have an actual aneurysm is, unless we say to the people in charge, we are going to determine what's important. You need to listen to us, your voters, about what we actually care about. I'll take a lecture for about 10 minutes. I can do that. I went to school. You know, I'm used to sitting there and being like, oh, yeah, okay, the Axis powers, that's so important. Thank you for telling me. I can take a lecture for about 10 minutes, and they're like telling me Iran is the greatest sponsor of terrorism. Okay, that's great. I hate Iran. Got it. But at some point, I want to pipe up and say, yeah, but what are you going to do about Union Station in Washington, D.C., which is filled with passed-out drug addicts with spreading urine stains? Like, it wasn't that way. I was here. How did that happen, and why aren't you fixing it? And by the way, if you don't fix it or even acknowledge it, dude, bad things could happen. Like, wake up. Time is to wake up out of your freaking fantasy world where you think telling the rest of us to shut up is enough. If you keep doing that, you know, this could go in dark directions. So I think it's so important for every person to look around and make your own decisions about what's important. What's important to you? What around you in your life? What do you see in your family, among your friends, in the town that you live in that's going wrong? Those are the biggest problems. Not what some shill on television is telling you your biggest problems are. He can shut up, but he won't. But look around. What's the biggest problem in your life? And if you're burdened by a car loan or some credit card payment you can never actually make, if you can't afford to make the full payment on your credit card 2 months in a row, that's a crisis, okay? That's a crisis. If you're in the hole to DraftKings to a point where you can't pay, no, I'm serious. These are huge problems, and most of them are money related. And if they're not solved, you're not getting married, and you're not having children, and you're not going to have a happy, fulfilling life, period. And they tell you, oh, it's all about values. Yeah, okay, values. You can't afford a house? I don't care what your values are like. You're not having 4 kids in an apartment. So you need to be heard on that. And anyone who tells you, oh, shut up, racist, hoist the middle finger and tell them, keep talking to me that way, pal, and we'll punish you. Anyway, sorry, excuse me. Do we have any hostile questions about Qatar? Yes. Well, that's so nice. Tell your mom I love her. Okay, your mom does too. Any questions? Yes, sir. What do I think about amnesty for farm workers? I think it's the most grotesque thing I've ever heard. Are you joking? Amnesty for farm workers? We have like 60 million illegal aliens in the country. The country bears no resemblance to the country I grew up in, and it's not better, it's worse. So I'm not going to sit for another lecture from anybody telling me we need to import more people to write code or pick grapes or any other task. Period. It hasn't worked. The country hasn't gotten richer. It hasn't become more unified. Those words should burn on the tongue of anyone who utters them. How dare you talk like that? Amnesty. How about deportation? What about that? I mean, look, and let me just say, people say all kinds of things. It doesn't mean it's happening. But I think it's worth being a little paranoid about it. I mean, I think everyone in this room is paranoid. It's important to make sure even the people you love are true to their word. Doesn't mean you hate them. Again, I don't take my kids at their, I love my kids more than anything. I don't automatically believe everything they tell me because I'm not a moron. Because I understand that people don't always say the truth. So, but anyway, yeah, any kind of amnesty is not only a bad idea, it's like outrageous. Anyway, sorry, I've been told to take the mics. I'm sorry, I know you guys have good provocative questions about Qatar, but I've been asked to talk to this guy.
How you doing tonight, sir?
I'm spun up, baby.
First off, I'd like to thank you for coming to this event. I'm 20 years old. I've been watching you for the past 12 years of my whole life, every single night. I've always listened to you, so thank you for coming. We love to listen to your opinions, listen to you preach basically to everyone. My question is, in your opinion, we have individuals in this country that are full citizens that are also full citizens of other countries. In your opinion, how can somebody pledge allegiance to two countries at the same time? And is that something that we should be allowing?
I mean, I think your question says it all. Obviously, that's absurd. I quote the New Testament, but I also refer to common sense when I say that no man can serve two masters. It's not possible. I only have one wife for that reason. You say to your wife, I'm going to take another wife, but I'm going to love you just as much. Nothing's going to change. My wife's going to look at me like, no, it's one wife. Because you can only really pledge your loyalty to one person or one country. That's just a fact. And there's also a sense, and this is relevant to me, and I know you're speaking about Israel, but it's not just Israel, to be honest. I think it's a huge problem. I think anybody, by the way, who serves in a foreign military should lose his citizenship immediately. There are a lot of Americans who've served in the IDF. They should lose their citizenship. There's a lot of Americans who've served in Ukraine, and they should lose their citizenship. You can't fight for another country and remain an American, period. Obviously. I mean, it's like not even, it's so funny how all of us have been cowed into being like, oh, that's hate speech. No, it's not. You don't hear hate in my voice because there isn't any. It's just an obvious recognition of the truth. But there's a more insidious thing, and I say it's not just Israel. I'm not just trying to like give myself cover. I'm being honest. There are a ton of countries that offer citizenship, actually, some of which I love. I have been offered citizenship in a couple different countries that I really like, and I thought about it. And then I thought, no, there's something about being lashed to the mast. Like, everyone can see that America's in trouble, the demographic trends are really bad, and the country's decaying, its cities are falling apart. So you're like, oh, wow, maybe I should flee. And then I'm like, my ancestors are from here. My parents are buried right across from my kitchen. I'm staying here. And the second you make that decision in your head, like, I don't care what happens to America, I will be here, it totally changes your attitude. You're like, I don't even care. It's my country. And they've been here for so long and fought in all of these wars. My ancestors, and I'm sure yours, would be totally shocked by some of the conversations. Foreign flags in the Congress? Are you joking? Get out. And so, no, once you decide you're all in on your country, it really changes the way you approach everything. And by the way, it should be the baseline requirement. You shouldn't be allowed to serve in government if you're not a U.S. citizen or you're a dual citizen. Are you joking? Of course not. And I would love to know what the justification is. And of course, there isn't one, which is why they're allowed to just write you off as some sort of like freak, some internet freak, hater, Nazi, whatever. No, I'm not. Just an American who loves my country, and I think it's fair to demand that the people running my country love it every bit as much as I do.
All righty, Tucker. Thank you for being here today. My question is mainly focused on national security. I have a question first and then a proposal. I'll see how you go about that.
Now you're freaking me out. You got a Rumble hat on. I love you already. All right. I'm going to stop and have an Alp, which is America's premier nicotine powder.
Go for it. All righty. So, I was born in Cuba. I came at the age of 2. So I can attest to the fact that the socialist experiment doesn't work at all.
Yep.
And that America is the best country in the world.
Yep.
So,
I agree.
I'm a U.S. citizen, and I'm very proud of that, and that's why I stand for my country every day. But I have a question specifically about national security.
All right, hit me with it, baby. No preamble. Just go right to it. You can't scare me.
So, for example, I would say that the head of the snake for a lot of the spying that goes on in the United States is Cuba. For example, we've found evidence that Venezuela, Nicaragua, like all the issues with immigration are because of the socialism going on in Latin America.
Yes.
And Cuba's an outpost for human trafficking, drug trafficking. We have Chinese spy bases on the island. We had Russian missile testing under Biden. And then on top of that, Cuba doesn't even recognize Gitmo as American territory. So my question for you is, what should the United States stance be on Cuba and the liberation thereof? And my proposal is, if you're willing to do some sort of documentary on Cuba, and if I could help you out on that.
Well, I always appreciate the offer of assistance. I would say we've had a Cuba embargo, so the revolution was 1959. So that was, well, 60, could that really be 66 years ago? That's crazy. And we've had an embargo for much of that time, and you just said yourself it hasn't worked. It hasn't liberated Cuba. The same regime is in charge, and it is still, working to undermine the interests of the United States. So what we're doing isn't working. I think that's a good place to start. So I know from living in D.C. that whenever someone tells you, like, it's not working, we need to double down on it, they're lying. So I think we need to reassess, are sanctions really the answer? And if so, tell me how that's worked. Second, I would say, I'm sure everything you say is true. I don't think that most Americans, and I know the U.S. government doesn't, spend a lot of time thinking about our own hemisphere, because we're so focused on places like Iran, Iraq, Syria, Libya, Gaza, Israel, all great places. I'm not, attacking anybody, but I'm just saying those are thousands of miles in an ocean away, whereas Latin America is right there, and what happens there is a direct effect here in our migration patterns and in our drug importation. So, maybe we should focus on our own hemisphere. I think you made a powerful case for that, and I don't understand why the U.S. military is stationed in Japan, Korea. I mean, I know that you get a long answer, how we're spending $1 trillion to secure places that pose no imminent threat to us, while ignoring our own continent, ignoring Mexico, which is the most hostile country in the world, the United States. Obviously, there's migrants coming through Mexico. How are they our ally? Canada, how are they our ally? Maybe we should spend some time reorienting here. So, anyway, that's my answer. I'm against socialism, obviously. That's why I'm worried about our economic system, because I think we're going to get socialism if we don't pull back from this.
All right, we got one more question.
One more question.
Hey, Tucker, I'm a big fan. I would love to work for you. I did give my resume to Steve Bannon. It would be hilarious if you two fought over me. I'm just saying. That would be great.
It'd be like a real bitchy cat fight.
It'd be a hell of a story, yeah. My family has fought for this country. I voted MAGA 3 times. My generation, just like you said, is convinced it can't trust the institutions and the administration, even this administration after last Monday. America first means America first, not foreign governments, not rich pedophiles. I have a lot more about the history, but I'm going to get through it out of respect for everybody. Basically, my questions are this. How does anybody possibly expect us to have any trust in our government, pay taxes, accept draft orders if these elites are not held accountable, right? And how am I anti-Semitic? My great-grandfather killed Nazis, and I brag about it. My mother's doctor was a Holocaust survivor, and everyone calls Trump a Nazi. My family in Chicago and my family in Ireland, which are both liberal hellholes, right? And it's pretty convenient that if he did criticize Israel, everyone could just say, look, I told you so, but that's not the point. Anyways, and finally, and how am I anti-Semitic when all my sources are Jewish, Israeli publications, and Holocaust survivors? And finally, and by far the most important, why can I burn an American flag in my country, but I get a mark by my name if I burn Israel's? How?
I think that's an entirely fair question. It's totally outrageous. You got 65 million people here illegally, according to the administration, and the only ones who are deported are ones who criticize a foreign country. I don't understand it. It's driving people insane, actually, and it's making people angry in a bad way. And I go on, X, and I see stuff. It's like, I don't even want that in my head. I don't want that. I don't want to marinate in that. I'm a happy person. I have a great life. I love this country. I love my dogs. I love my children. I love my wife. And you go online, and people are so mad. I mean, I've never seen anything like the rage online. And I get it. I get it. That's the worst part. I get it. People go crazy after a while if you totally ignore their concerns, if you call them names rather than answering their questions. I really think we need to agree, and this would include the Department of Justice, which is running around, it's got task forces attacking people. It's like, stop. What matters in this country is not what religion, ethnicity, race you are. It's whether or not you're a U.S. citizen. Citizenship has to be the thing that holds us together as a country. We're all Americans. And this continuation of identity politics is the most destructive thing we can do. We are all the same under the law. There is nobody, rich, poor, no matter what your religion, what your color, who's held to a different legal standard, period. That has to be the rule, or else this country will fall apart into warring tribes.
My email is ryanscottcasey@gmail. If I could send you my cover letter, I really.
Ryan Scott Casey, ladies and gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that was the much anticipated Tucker Carlson. That was one that I was looking forward to today. I know a lot of people in the crowd looking forward to that one as well. Final speaker of the night there, and a great one to end it on.
I gotta say, who's gonna do the Tucker laugh impression? You know, it's late. We've been doing this all day. Michelle, give it a shot.
I don't think I can. You know what? Bo's good at impressions. There it is.
That's as best I can do.
Tucker's laugh really came out when he brought up Qatar. You know,
Yeah.
he gets a kick out of it when people say he takes money from Qatar. I don't think Tucker takes money from Qatar. It was a good speech hitting on Epstein big time. And I thought Tucker's line where he said, why are people mad about what's going on with Epstein? And it's because they believe that a elite ruling class of people of all the money and all the power can get away with anything. And that makes people who get arrested for like expired driver's licenses and get hassled for little things feel like the system is totally rigged against them. So that's a very important message. And I think an accurate message from Tucker tonight, guys.
100%. We want to actually head out. You see the screen right there. President Trump landing in Newark, New Jersey. You can see him right there taking off. He was in Texas today speaking with the victims of those deadly floods and heading to Bedminster for the weekend there. You see him taking off there in Newark, New Jersey. Our own Brian Glenn was on the ground traveling today, doing phenomenal coverage as well, Bill.
Yeah, a day full of news, really, Michelle. There was so much that happened, and it's not often that you get a summit like you have here at SAS where you can discuss these ideas in such great detail, but we got such a blast of news from John Solomon and teasing about things that are coming ahead about Epstein. Epstein's name has come up so much, you guys, just in this first day, and I imagine that it will in the next couple days as well, because people want answers, they want accountability. It's like, this is what we voted for, so there has to be some accountability, or we can't trust our government, because we couldn't do it under Biden. So you have to do it now. You have to establish some level of trust.
You can't do it. We were talking about this off air. You can't whitewash questions. You can't say you don't want to talk about it.
Right.
You can't say you don't want to answer the questions. You know, President Trump, when he started running in 2015, he said, this is power handed back to the people. This is transparency. This movement is you. So that means that this administration is all of us. And that means that when we have something on our mind and the whole entire conference is talking about it, Epstein, that means that we deserve answers. And the buck stops in the DOJ with Pam Bondi, and she needs to. It's been an overwhelming consensus here today. She needs to clean it up and explain it, because there are so many inconsistencies that were pointed out from Megyn Kelly to Tucker and so many of the folks today of just a couple of things either not adding up or she's not answering certain elements of how this whole thing came to be and how the conclusions in that memo were drawn. So if that's what you're going with, you have to explain it. The people have the right and they deserve to know. And the people out here want to know, guys.
And yeah, go ahead, Michelle.
Go ahead, Bo.
No, I was just saying there's certain deliverables that we expected. The border, it's happening, right?
Yes. Amazing.
Getting business back, getting power back in the hands of the people. But you can't tease something and bring these binders out and then not give people something.
Oh, it's phase one of the phase one of what? Phase one of a memo saying it's over.
And then it makes why were we duped? Why were the influencers duped? What kind of campaign was being rolled out there?
Yeah.
We talked about the fact that Matt Gaetz did not run for Attorney General. He basically had his nomination withdrawn for Pam Bondi, right?
Yes.
So she's got to be the person that does this. Now, it sounds to me like what John Solomon is saying is that Pam Bondi's going nowhere, Kash Patel's going nowhere, Dan Bongino's going nowhere. How that all manifests itself for the next couple of days and in this weekend, I don't know. I think that will be interesting to see what that reset is like. But something's got to give at some point.
Look, it's a Friday. We have the weekend. This was a busy news day. A lot of rumors swirling as well. I think everyone needs a reset. I think they need to get together and figure out what's going on, because I'll tell you though, what you look at Pam Bondi, what she said, mind you, she said multiple times that she has these Epstein lists, and now she's rolling back on it. There has to be some sort of transparency, and she was either lying then or she's lying now. Whatever it is, we need to come clean and we need to move forward, because this is not a good look for the administration in general.
And I don't know if there was a voice more catastrophic to Pam Bondi today than Megyn Kelly. We talked about the people who would be hard on Pam Bondi, and it came from a female source. Megyn Kelly, who laid out pretty much a plan of why is this happening? Why is this woman being given this level of power? Maybe she needs to go. And we heard it time and time again. We heard it from Tucker. We heard it from a number of people today. And again, that's where we see sometimes, I know Steve Bannon's talked about it too, but kind of this fracture between MAGA sometimes about what we need to support and what we need to do moving forward. But I don't know how you guys feel about it, about Pam Bondi, but I think there has to be something she needs to do to establish trust. That's the word that comes to mind.
We are not the Democrat Party. We're allowed to have different opinions. That's what we're all here to discuss. And if the overwhelming opinion is we want to know what happens on this, that says a lot, because a lot of the times they say Republicans can't agree on anything because we have a lot of diverse ideas. So the fact that everybody wants this means that we got to do something about it, guys. And I think that this is going to be heard loud and clear. The timing of this conference coinciding with that memo and the response and what the speakers are saying, that's getting back to President Trump. You know that Trump is watching the highlights of all the speakers tonight.
I was watching this analysis from Bill O'Reilly on Chris Cuomo's show, and he said the reason why the list may not be revealed is because there are people that may have taken the trips, but they weren't necessarily involved in the pedophilia or the trafficking. Now, once that name is released, it's sullied by the media because they live on this stuff, and it doesn't matter whether they did it or not. I do see the logic in that. However, if there are thousands of hours of videos, what's in that?
Who's on it?
That's bona fide evidence. Right? That's my point.
Gentlemen, there are a lot of holes that still need to be filled. And of course, we also have a very busy weekend as well. Thank you so much for joining us today. Day one of SAS here in Tampa. It's been great being with you. And of course, all of this is made possible with our wonderful sponsors, one of which we're going to mention that is pretty cool here, XTI Aerospace. It's revolutionizing the way the world travels with the Trifan 600, a cutting-edge vertical takeoff and landing airplane that blends the vertical takeoff capability of a helicopter with the speed, comfort, and range of a business jet. Designed to carry up to 7 occupants, the Trifan 600 offers a seamless point-to-point travel experience, lifting off vertically, bypassing traffic in airports, and flying at speeds over 300 miles per hour for up to 1,000 miles. Now, with the ability to land wherever a helicopter can, it eliminates the need for traditional runways, delivering unmatched flexibility and efficiency. Powered by 100% sustainable aviation fuel, the Trifan 600 cuts CO2 emissions by up to 80%, setting a new benchmark for environmentally responsible aviation. As global demand grows for smarter, faster, and cleaner air mobility, XTI Aerospace stands at the forefront of the emerging vertical economy. The company's mission aligns with the executive order on unleashing American drone dominance, aimed at accelerating America's innovation in manned and unmanned VTOL aircraft. Backed by a seasoned team with experience certifying over 40 FAA-approved aircrafts, XTI Aerospace is actively pursuing FAA certification for the Trifan 600 and is well positioned to lead the next wave of aerospace innovation. XTI Aerospace is publicly traded on the NASDAQ under the ticker symbol XTIA. Definitely a cool company, and I know Mike has his eye on it as well.
I'm going to have to go buy some XTIA. I mean, we talked to them earlier.
Yeah, we did.
I thought it was really cool, actually. I think there's a lot of practical use, and I think that especially when it comes to the federal government, what they need to do, I do believe that their technology has a lot of transferable benefit for Department of Homeland Security, Department of Defense. I think it's pretty cool, and we hear about travel stories and travel problems. Seems like a lot of people can't get around like they used to these days. So, XTI, baby.
Well, yeah, and you look at the disaster relief, look what happened in Texas and, of course, Florida, a lot of the hurricanes that happened in the Carolinas, and you think everyone looks back and says, what could we do better next time? You have to be prepared, right? And I think XTI is a company that seems to innovate that and revolutionize travel in terms of point A to point travel that they talk about. And I thought Scott and John enlightened us with a lot of great technology today that I think is very exciting for the future, Mike.
100% agree. It has been an amazing day, and we're just getting started. We got a lot of speakers coming up over the next couple of days. Michelle, who are you most excited about tomorrow in the program? Anybody sticks out to you?
Oh, that is a good question. I was really excited for Tucker Carlson today, but of course we have a great lineup as well. Hey, we still have to hear from our very own Jack Posobiec.
Yeah, there you go. I'm most excited tomorrow for Kristi Noem. I believe she's speaking. A lot of talk about the border, the one big beautiful bill. The signature item in that was the $100+ billion for southern border wall funding and ICE enforcement. So how are you going to spend that money? I think a lot of people want to know because they want those illegals on delay out of our country, and she's going to round it up. And we want deportations. We want Epstein list. We want deportations. Christy Noem tomorrow. Hopefully she gives us the plan. I think that'll be pretty cool.
Hey, one last thank you before we go as well, because we've really had some phenomenal sponsors who make all of this possible here at SAS and are able to create this community of MAGA-loving patriots just like you who are watching at home. Of course, we're all thankful as well. A big shout out to Birch Gold Group as well, our sponsor there, Birch Gold. And hey, you guys can get a free info kit from Birch Gold. Just text America to 989898. Great company. We all love them here at RAB. And of course, they help to make all of this possible. You just text America to 989898.
And also, guys, I'm looking forward to Byron Donalds. I know I said that earlier, but I think people here in Florida are looking forward to what Florida looks like after Ron DeSantis. And he's going to lay out that map. I think he already has. He's got a bright future. I know, Mike, you talked about maybe him being a VP candidate at one time. I think he's got a bright future ahead. What do you think, Michelle?
Oh, I think he's going to be running for governor here in Florida and doing great things there as well. Look, he's young, and that's what we want is younger people coming up. We don't want the older men. That's a big complaint in the younger generation, for instance.
Mike, that means you and I are out.
No, listen, by political standards, you guys are spring chickens, let me tell you.
That's right.
You know, but that's also what's so exciting about being at this event as well. You're seeing such enthusiasm and passion from younger kids. The youth vote is not lost, but I'll tell you what, if we don't take hold of it and do what we need to do now, we're going to have a big problem come the midterms.
It really hit home. Ben Berquam said it earlier. Our events and gatherings are events like this. We get together, we compare ideas, we hear from the biggest names and best minds in the space. We all get together and talk about it and bond and figure out ways to win. What does the left do? What is their equivalent of this? Burning down buildings and child sexual drag show gatherings. It's
dressing
all
up as demons.
Yes. That's
dressing up as women.
That's their gathering. Our gathering is this. So it's really amazing the work that Turning Point USA has done. And it's really amazing the way that they've been able to bring together thousands and thousands of conservatives, both like really young. We see these kids. I saw this kid on War Room. He was like 9 years old.
Yeah.
And then we got elderly people here too. Amazing.
Super
We got
smart
9-year-olds saying, give me the Epstein files. It's amazing.
Running around their MAGA hats. Those are future politicians, but there is so much more to come. Make sure to tune back in here tomorrow because we have a great list of speakers, a lot of great things going on. Thanks so much for joining us. Have a wonderful night from all of us here at Real America's Voice in Tampa for the Student Action Summit. Thanks so much for watching and have a great night.
evening and welcome to Turning Point tonight. I know there's been programming all day and it's been a long day, but a very impactful day here at the Student Action Summit put on by Turning Point. We are joined by if you watch the show every single night, White House correspondent Monica Page and Frontlines contributor, Turning Point contributor Sav Hernandez. Guys, big day, right? There were some haymakers thrown. What was, Sav, we'll start with you. What was the highlight of your day? Go off.
Okay, highlight of my day was getting to speak to Anna Paulina Luna, of course, one of our favorite congresswomen, TPUSA alum. So that was great. We got to speak a lot about, current topics, what's going on, the biggest topic on everybody's mind this week.
What is it?
The economy, Joe Bob. What else would it be? Yes. What else that starts with
Tariffs.
an E would it be? We got to talk about that, which was great. And, the energy in this event was incredible. I think this is the biggest SAS that I've ever attended. So it was just really great. I mean, we saw so many different people walking around from all different types or walks of life. And I guess political viewpoints, too. So it was a really diverse event, if you will.
There we go. Diversity. This was fascinating. I don't want to throw my producers under the bus here, but this is their first time coming to an event like this. And while it's very exciting seeing them excited, it's also like, no, God, we're working. We gotta go. It's just wow, because of how fantastic Turning Point. And sorry guys if you're out there, how fantastic Turning Point events are. We saw the intro, right? That was done. It rivals WWE entrances.
Oh, yeah.
That's at least, I don't know.
Sparklers, the loud music.
That's my highlight of the day, is like seeing the first intro segment and just like getting chills of just like, yeah, I want to say a bad word.
For every single person, like the little montage that they play in the beginning of like the best highlights, and then they got the sparklers out and the music gets everybody amped up. It's really something.
What was your highlight of the day?
We interviewed Congressman Byron Donalds from Florida, talking about the One Big Beautiful Bill, and of course we're in the beautiful state of Florida, so you're talking about alligator Alcatraz and what this means for immigration, and how this is going to keep our nation safer, and just really getting to the crux of all the really amazing things that's in this One Big Beautiful Bill, how people are going to save money, how this is going to be great for farmers, for everyday Americans, how quickly we're going to start seeing growth. Of course, the president went off to Texas for visiting those disaster relief victims from the flooding. So, of course, he had a very busy schedule, but there's a lot on the plate to talk about. There's a lot to celebrate, and I feel like that's really the main theme here at Student Action Summit, is that there's just always something to celebrate now in this administration.
There seem to be, obviously there's specific things. You've got people talking about Epstein, you got people talking about immigration, but I think the overall kind of vibe that I got, especially it was kind of a tone set by Charlie, was that the American people are getting what they voted for, right? In a lot of ways, obviously not all of them, Sav. I can see your face there. But just overall, the picture of, well, this is what we wanted Donald Trump to do, and maybe there's some pushback from some wackadoo judges. Maybe there's some congressional pushback. But at the end of the day, Donald Trump is doing what the American people are voted him into office to do. And that's, in my opinion, kind of the overarching theme of how the weekend is panning out. Do you have any thoughts about this event? I don't want to upset you.
No, not upset at all. Again, the focus for me has been the illegal immigration crisis. This is something I've been covering for the last 4 years. And we have seen, just yesterday, that ICE raid in which you had minors that were rescued from this marijuana farm. We're living through an age in which you would now have the left wing celebrating or trying to continue allowing children to work on a marijuana farm. So I can't even oh my gosh, it's so baffling. I can't even talk about it. But it's just interesting to see, over the last 4 years versus now, the difference in the border being closed, in law and order actually being applied to Border Patrol, National Guard being funded, during the last 4 years. I spoke to so many of them who felt like their hands were tied, that they were essentially an Uber for illegal immigrants. However, all of that has been reversed, and it is a very positive thing to see.
Not to steal the thunder of the moment, but I do want to kind of touch on the whole marijuana thing. I think there's a shot that you guys have, 15, of a clip of a congresswoman making some noise at a marijuana farm after ICE raids. Do we have that we're able to pull up and watch? I know, yeah, there we go. wow, didn't look at all like a political stunt there. He he was definitely trying to make a point. Monica, kind of seeing that stuff, especially around immigration, if you've been online today, you've seen all the crazy crap out of California. Yeah. Do you think, and I know it's hard because everybody here is like, yes, like I get excited about it, to be honest with you. How do you think that plays among just kind of the average American who isn't in full understanding of why it is that we need to get illegals out of the country?
Well, of course, to the average American who isn't really staying informed or doesn't really pay attention to what the president's been running on for the past 4 years, it's not the best look when it comes to these kind of roundup mass deportations. But at the end of the day, when you take a look at how many Americans' lives are at risk due to the open borders that we had over the last 4 years, and I mean, I saw footage of, Border Patrol agents literally cutting the wire to allow illegal aliens to cross the border. That's what's at risk. And these people are in every single neighborhood throughout the country. Every state became a border state. And I think when you take a look at what's happening, a lot of the American people maybe feel some type of way, that are like, oh no, maybe not all of these are criminals. We need to be careful who we're deporting. But it's literally in the name illegal alien. You are entering the country illegally. You are already committing a crime. So I think when you take a look at the rhetoric and take a look at what's actually really happening, the president is just doing what the American people voted for. That he was given a mandate and he's just carrying out.
He's also just following the law. I don't know why conservatives don't make that argument more. Hey, he's following the law. If you don't like the law, that's fine. Change it, because we can't exist in a world where, there's just some federal laws that we don't participate in. Okay, if that's the case, might I recommend tax law, for example, federal tax law. Maybe we just ignore that one too. I don't know if that's just me.
Okay, Joe Bob, wait, I got to cut you off here. Did you see that clip of Chuck Schumer? It was earlier last week, and he was like, today it's the USAID, tomorrow it could be the IRS. And we were like, it's going to be the IRS. Okay, we don't want any of these various institutions funded.
Well, and it's interesting too, because they kind of clown themselves. I think Charlie was hitting a bunch of libs when he was on stage, some big prominent lefties, and making the case effectively like, look, these people are so deranged in the way that they view the world that it's a lib. His big thing was, how do we keep that momentum, because we have it right now, and because everything they're doing is just absolutely nuts, and how do we keep that? That's our big kind of goal here, trying to figure out how that's the case. Monica, how do you keep it? I know Charlie's asking the question. I know it's a big question, but how do we keep the momentum?
We need to remember what we're fighting for every single day, and we need to remember just how we got here, and to never forget what we went through over the last 4 years. We had essentially a president who was in cognitive decline, who maybe wasn't making all the decisions at the White House. Yeah, believe it or not.
No.
We had a president that may have not
Somebody should write a book about that.
Monica,
and expose
I don't know. His doctor pleaded the fifth like 20 times the other day, so we aren't really sure if he was really in cognitive decline.
Are we trusting the science on that one? Are we trusting the doctor here? It's a great question, but we need to remember that the fight always continues. We're already talking about midterms now, which is crazy because we just came out of an election, but we got to remember what our values are here. What's at stake?
I always think it's funny, and I do think we try to be lighthearted on the show, even though there's serious issues. But the whole thing is, if you can make fun of it, you're going to eventually win the day, and that's why I think it's great to see here at Turning Point events. I want to play before we get to break. I want to play this clip from Tom Homan talking about ICE. We have that clip up here, and we're gonna watch that and react to Mr. Homan, who I think I'm going to talk to tomorrow.
Look, people need to understand, ICE officers and Border Patrol, they don't need probable cause to walk up to somebody, briefly detain them, and question them. They just need this totality of the circumstances, right? They just got through the observation, get articulable facts based on their location, their occupation, their physical appearance, their actions. Like a uniformed border patrol walks up to them at, for instance, a Home Depot, and they got all these articulable facts, plus the person walks away or runs away. Agents are trained. What they need to detain somebody temporarily and question them is.
I love that argument from libs. Oh, they could take you. do, as if there's no way for ICE to go use their common sense and reasonability to maybe figure something out.
And also, not to cut you off, Joe Bob, but this did happen in which you did have a naturalized citizen who was taken by ICE, and then they looked at his documentation and were like, oh, sorry, bro, you're good.
Wait a
and
minute.
he agreed
They can
with everything.
find that out?
I know. It's baffling. And he agreed with what was going on. He was like, keep doing you, ICE. Thank you. It's okay.
We might be talking about the same one, but there was that one in LA where the guy got arrested and he's like, I showed him all my documentation and
it was fine.
And I'm still a Donald Trump supporter. And that was the funniest pin on it. That story went away fascinatingly quick, which is
Never let it die. Never let that story die, Joe
never
Bob.
forget it.
Open the show with that every day, okay?
Yeah, we'll try to do that. Hopefully it doesn't get crushed by the Justice Department. Anyways, we will be right back here on Turning Point tonight. Appreciate you sticking around. We'll be back after this. Welcome back to Turning Point tonight, where together we are charting the course of America's cultural comeback. And I think that's, like I said, I don't want to sound repetitive, but I do think it is. These types of events are charting the course of America's cultural comeback. Copyright, coin the phrase. We talked about this. Well, okay. One of the biggest problems, politically speaking, in the conservative movement, but also from the left now, is trying to capture the youth vote, right? We've seen President Trump win the youth vote across the board in a bunch of different states, which conservatives haven't done really ever. At the same time, well, not necessarily the same time, a couple months later, you've got this wackadoodle in New York City who also was leading the charge with young voters. When that clash happens, right, what do we do to make sure that we can maintain the sanity in these younger people and push them in obviously the right direction? Monica, what are your thoughts?
Well, what's interesting is that he's running in New York. I don't think New York City specifically should be an experiment. I don't think that it should be an experiment where we're testing out some guy new with wacky new ideologies to try and quell the inflammation of the de Blasio Adams era. I think that we should be, going back to establishment, especially in a city like New York City, that has really been dealing with up and down, left and right over the past couple of decades. And when you take a look at things, I don't know if there will ever be really a defining moment that could ever unite the left and the right, especially when you have, it's extremely polarized. I mean, you have the left that are so far kind of nearing the communist kind of sector, and then you've got maybe some people that are very far right, or maybe a little bit more conservative than the communist sector wing of the political spectrum. But when you try to bring those together, it's very difficult. It's kind of like trying to mix oil and water. It doesn't work. And you're just going to get two different kinds of power balances. So it's going to be interesting to see the way those two interact, especially in a city so diverse like New York, where you do have some conservatives in New York City, and you got a lot of liberals in New York City. I'm very interested to see how this dynamic's going to work out if Zohran Mamdani ever comes to fruition there.
Somebody has to win. I think it was Newt Gingrich that said, when is all the political bickering going to start? When one side wins. Sav, this idea that the best way to prove bad ideas wrong is to enact them, right? You just shine light on the policy of libs. You have to put it in place and practice. My concern is, okay, well, what if they ruin it altogether? Because I would love to see a laboratory of democracy like California where people can point to go, hey, we don't want to be that. That's a bad thing to be. But at the same time, if it grows too big and there's too many examples, all of a sudden the whole thing comes crashing down. So what do we do there?
I think that we just need to redirect New Yorkers and remind them that they've already been living under a form of like soft socialism, if you will. But those government programs were just not directed toward them. It was directed toward all of the illegal immigrants that have been in New York over the last couple of years. You've had illegal immigrants who have gotten free food, free housing, free transport, free medical care. I mean, they've gotten everything for free, and it is the people of New York who have had to pay for that. So, the people of New York have not enjoyed that, and I think that kind of hounding that issue home will be really important. It'll be interesting to see, between Eric Adams and Zohran Mamdani, who does come out on top. But something that I'm noticing is that people are very hungry for a younger, more energetic candidate. It's why AOC is popular. It's why Jasmine Crockett is popular, even though these people have the IQ of a goldfish.
Don't insult goldfish like that.
My apologies to all the goldfish. My apologies. But, it's like people are hungry for energy, for fresh ideas. And so I hope that in the right wing, we start paying attention to that as well and pushing for term limits, because some of y'all are so old, like you just need to retire.
Monica, Charlie's speech today was a lot of positioning around, okay, we have to keep this momentum going. And one of the ways we do that is we craft conservative policies that allow people to live conservative lifestyles, like cheaper housing, by not letting foreigners buy land in this country, among many other things. That upsets the more laissez-faire, libertarian type of people that are just, no, let the market do its work. Are we at a point where we can't just let the market do everything? You have to craft policy that favors the American people, especially the young people that are trying to get by.
Yeah, we've seen what happens when we let the markets do the work. We see what happens when we're not paying attention in society. We see what happens when we're just kind of like, oh, we'll just see how things play out. We've seen what happens when that happens. And I think now is the time where we start crafting those policies, like you mentioned, and we start creating something bigger than ourselves that can benefit every single person. So that every single American, especially our young generation, that has faith in the future, that actually believes in the American dream and actually afford to buy a home in this market and can afford to maybe start a family if that's what you want to do. And it inspires hope and change for the future. And I'm very hopeful in our future, especially after this one big beautiful bill passage. I know that was really crucial to creating these American dreams and creating them and making those come to life. So I'm excited about it. I'm excited to buy a home. I don't own a home just yet. Sav, maybe you do.
Perhaps. Maybe
Which is huge.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. So, but I mean, this is the American dream, and unfortunately, not many people have been able to attain it.
Yeah, I think again, like there's a big move that I think a lot of people can agree with, right? Because the market is great. We love the free market, and at the same time, outside participants in that free market distort it in a way that makes it unfair for Americans. Sav, what do you think is the big issue for people right now, right? During the election, we had inflation, we had immigration, those are the big top issues. Obviously, as times change, things change, and next year we're gonna have midterms. What is gonna be the pinpoint issue that you think Americans are gonna be really, really stringent on? Are they gonna stay the same, or are they gonna evolve to something else? What are your thoughts?
I think it is going to be the mass deportation issue, just because everything that we just talked about stems from mass deportations, right? If we want to get our culture back, if we want the foundation of this country to go back to what our founding fathers originally intended for it to be, if we want to, again, drive down housing costs, if we want to make America great again, truly, we do need to enact these mass deportations because, and I love pointing to this, Joe Bob, because you had protests in Mexico last week, right? And these Mexicans were pissed. They were mad. They said, these Americans are coming over there. They're not learning Spanish. They're driving up housing costs. They are diluting the culture and they're replacing the locals. Absolutely agree with that. And that's why Americans are upset.
Where else is this happening?
I can't think of where.
It's almost like we've been experiencing it for the last decade. Crazy.
Monica, what do you think? As obviously things change as the times go on, right? Obviously there's bigger issues, there's smaller issues. What do you think is going to be the next kind of pinnacle issue in the upcoming midterms next year?
Well, that's such an interesting and open-ended question because I feel like, although it's definitely immigration that was one of the top issues heading into the 2024 elections, that and the economy, I think, a lot of it is going to be a lot of these rogue federal judges that we've seen throughout the country trying to stifle the president's agenda and trying to hold him back from what the American people voted for. I think those, between immigration and the rogue judges, I think they're really going to put up a fight. And what's interesting is when I go to these protests in D.C., a lot of them are AARP residents or recipients who are definitely way too old to be out there. They're definitely retired. They're not young. And they're speaking and shouting into the void. It's kind of like old man yells at cloud. That's the kind of people that you see. And when I ask them, what do you think is like the number one issue that you have with the president? Oh, it's democracy, or oh, I can't name one. So I think a lot of these older generations are going to be looking towards these judges or the lawfare system, and I think they're going to be pointing to those kind of issues as well.
And Joe Bob, I got to jump in on this too because I see the exact same thing, except I'm getting 60, 70-year-old grandmas saying that abortion is their top issue, and I'm like, ma'am, I don't think that issue is going to be impacting you anytime soon. But it's kind of crazy because, these were the older generation who still think that the sexual revolution and feminism is the best thing since sliced bread. They don't realize that Gen Z has pushed back both men and women very aggressively against these.
That's what ruined the culture. They ruined the culture. And not to get super esoteric here, but you could also you make the argument that pride might be the biggest issue with this, because I think anybody who's objectively looking at what the sexual revolution did, or really what any of the 60s movement did, was usher in this culture that was just unsustainable because it wasn't based in fundamental religious morality. And rather than look at that and go, looking around, there's a guy on meth pooping on my street. That's a problem. There's illegals taking people's jobs. That's a problem. Instead, they're doubling down because pride. It's the hardest thing to do is say, I was wrong about that. And we've got an entire lib generation of the past hyper progressive generation that ushered in this terrible culture, refusing to say, I'm sorry, I was wrong.
And they see that and they label it as empowering. Oh, these people are being empowered to speak their truth and live their truth. And this is how, you give them an inch and they take a mile, and somehow we end up in this world, this society.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what you said. So have you any interesting altercations with some of the olds on the lib side that are just outside of their mind?
You know, you said the word pride, and I immediately got PTSD because I just covered New York City Pride. Unfortunately, after promising myself I would do no more Pride events, I did go to New York City Pride this year.
And you were participating.
No, I was far away with my crucifix, like, God protect these poor people, and you pray for their souls. But it was the same thing. It was like these old boomers it was really interesting because there was a big attack on Christianity this year. That's kind of the biggest thing that I noticed.
As a shift.
As a shift. Like before, it was very much about like, I'm gay, congrats. Now it's we're attacking Christianity. We are going to twerk on the steps of the historic church. So very interesting shift. And I really do think that we are seeing a lot of evil come out because the culture is shifting in such a positive way. So interesting times we're living in.
Monica, I know you have similar protest experiences, maybe not as much as the rest of the frontlines people, because thankfully you're behind the very tall gates of the White House, which fences apparently and walls seem to work. Do you have any experiences with some of those crazy old people that refuse to admit they were wrong?
Yeah, I mean, they stand outside the White House all day, every day, at least multiple times a week, and they stand out there with the little cardboard signs and they say no to fascism or hate doesn't make America great. And this is the same. They're all extremely old. They all believe that January 6th was worse than 9/11, and this is like I don't know what's up with that generation, but they are dead set that the president is comparable to Hitler. And I don't know if it was like 2020 that kind of warped their brains, or if they've always been this kind of delusional. But it's very interesting.
Yeah, I like when they have the no kings sign.
Yeah.
We did it. Actually, it worked. There are no kings.
Yeah.
We will be right back. Sav and Monica are going to leave us, but we'll be right back after the break. Turning Point tonight. Don't go away. We'll be back after this. Welcome back to Turning Point tonight, where together we are charting the course of America's cultural comeback. We have a brand new panel here. Turning Point content creator Bo Alford, Turning Point contributor Anthony Watson, and Turning Point adjacent Jonathan Copel. Guys, rocked the house today in a bunch of different ways. What was the highlight of your day? We'll start with Bo.
Oh my gosh. Okay. My highlight was the very beginning of SAS. When it started, I wanted to go in and see the countdown. So they were doing a countdown. Then when it went to 0, the American flag came on. Everyone did the national anthem. And then Charlie's promo started, and it gave me chills.
I don't want to sound weird by being like, dude, Charlie was so sick, right? It sounds a little bit weird, but it's like a you have to come to one of the events. You have to come because you can't describe the momentum to somebody else adequately. You have to be there and you have to see it.
The amount of chills you get is I looked at my fiance and I said, no one does it like Turning Point. And that is so true. You said it. If you've not been, you have to go. Because I can't describe it to you other than chills.
Anthony, as Bo took the obvious answer of the coolest part of the entire event, we'll throw to you, which you have to come up with something different because that's the way TV works.
Okay. Well, first of all, Bo, I'm gonna say what Bo did, just with a little bit more anticipation. I think the best part of this entire, definitely blacker. We're taking it back to the barbecue section right here. Okay,
I'm ready.
The best part about today, with everything that Bo said, was the subwoofers. You're sitting on your seat. Oh, yeah, it is, man. You felt the bass, the boom, every single thing. You literally, from the cheers to the people walking in, you felt the floor shaking. It's not really something that you can express because it's something that you have to feel. I mean, everyone's going to say the same thing about the event that's here. You have like-minded people that want the same result for the country that we all call home, and it's nice to finally be surrounded by a lot of like-minded people where you don't have to perform, you don't have to put on. All you can do is just be your freedom, American-loving self. And if you're black, it's the best place for you to be around like-minded American people that want the America that people like me swear doesn't exist anymore.
Oh yeah, it's definitely horrible living in this awesome, great country. It's funny. Yesterday we were doing some SAS promo on the show, and I said, if you're not here, you probably vote for blue-headed libs. And people were very upset in the emails saying, hey, some of us have jobs. I don't mean you. I apologize if you thought that was directed specifically at you. You don't have to come to be conservative, but it sure does help to prove your bona fides. Jonathan, what was your favorite top moment?
So on the way here, I'm sitting on the plane next to a black Hebrew Israelite. So they're very interesting people. So I already knew this event was